Chapter 405. The Patriarch of Hell. When are you going to wake up if you don't wake up now? As soon as Yi Chun said that, the green glow on the Patriarch of Hell's body gradually weakened. A hint of joy finally appeared on Yi Chen's slightly tired face. The glow did not disappear. Instead, it was absorbed by the Patriarch. It proved that Yi Chen's soul-nourishing pill was effective. A moment later, the glow on the Patriarch of Hell's body disappeared completely. The motionless Patriarch of Hell suddenly moved. A stinky fart spread in the room. Yi Chen's expression froze. He opened the window with a wave of his hand immediately and cast the wind manipulation method to blow the stench out of the room. Who? Which bastard is calling me? A mumble came from the room. Damn it, I'm rolling in bed with those girls from the Rapture sect on planet Hongluan. Which bastard woke me up? Patriarch Yellow Spring sprung up from the bed and glanced around the room with a murderous look on his face, as if he was filled with righteous indignation. However, his body froze when his gaze landed on Yi Chen. Subsequently, he rubbed his eyes with his claws and looked like he had seen a ghost. Xiao Yezi? Wait, didn't I return to Dusk Purple Planet and recover my cultivation base? I even gathered 3,000 beauties for my harem, didn't I? Why would I still see you, you fiend? The Patriarch revealed a confused expression. When he recovered his chaotic memories, all the fur on his body stood up. He nodded and bowed to Yi Chen immediately. Who's that? Master, it's you. Yi Chen said with a forced smile. Are you done with your wet dream? If it were in the past, he would have slapped the Patriarch of Hell without hesitation if he dared to act like that. Thank you for saving my life, Master. The Patriarch of Hell shuddered and bowed to him. There was an imperceptible warmth in his eyes. He recalled many things now. For example, the Yi family was attacked by 5 half-step martial venerables from Shang Santian. Yi Wushuang resolutely chose to hold the 5 of them back, and he resolutely burned his divine consciousness to raise his cultivation base to protect the Yi family. At that time, he thought he was dead for sure. Never did he expect Yi Chen to save him. How could he not be excited and touched? Patriarch of Hell! Yi Chen suddenly shouted in his deep voice. Old ancestor Huang Quan was shocked when he heard this. He thought this malefic person was going to vent his anger on him again, so he secretly prepared to flatter him. However, what Yi Chen did next stunned him. Yi Chen clasped his fists at him. Thank you. The Patriarch was stunned on the spot. F***ck me. This devil is actually thanking me? Is the sun rising from the west, or am I hallucinating? Could it be that this evil star did it on purpose? Are you trying to numb me? That's right. That must be it. Your ancestor, won't fall for it. Yi Chen had no idea what he was thinking. He smiled lightly and said sincerely, Thank you for saving my family. From now on, you're no longer my servant, and you don't have to call me master anymore. Just call me fellow cultivator. What did you say? The Patriarch of Hell thought that he had heard wrongly. When he saw that Yi Chen's expression did not seem to be fake, he suddenly rubbed his hands and said, Can you stop calling me cutie? He hated that name. While he was unconscious, he had been dreaming. He dreamed that he had returned to the cultivation world and became the Patriarch of Hell who dominated the cultivation world again. He slept with many female cultivators, but these female cultivators called him cutie. But face had almost become his nightmare. Sure, what's your real name? Yi Chen nodded lightly. This time, it was the Patriarch of Hell's turn to blush. He stammered, You can't laugh at me if I say it. Of course. Yi Chen smiled calmly. Rubbing his hands together, Patriarch Yellow Spring stuttered. My real name is Zhuang Qing Chun. Yi Chen raised his brows. Pretending to be pure? I'm not pretending to be pure. I'm pure. The hair on the Patriarch of Hell's forehead stood on end when he saw his expression. He knew that Yi Chen would react like that. After all, his name was too coquettish. Anyone who heard it would immediately think of those 3 words. That was also the reason why he had been stammering earlier. After all, pretending to be pure did not seem to be much better than cutie. All right. Yi Chen smiled and went downstairs to take his daughter from Suyuhan's arms. He took out a drop of blood from her middle finger and removed the master-servant contract between her and the patriarch. The moment the contract was removed, the patriarch was shocked. He immediately felt that he was no longer restrained. Only then did he believe Yi Chen. Yi Chen returned to the room and said to him while looking at him, "Fellow Zhuang, from now on you're free. You can go anywhere in the world as long as you don't make me your enemy. You can look for me after you break through to foundation building. I'll keep my promise and help you possess a body to recover your human body." This was a choice he had made to repay the patriarch's kindness. After all, humans were not plants. How could they be emotionless? "Wait, fellow Yi." The patriarch of hell clasped his fists at Yi Chen solemnly. He changed the topic and said, "I didn't say that I'm leaving, did I?" He was a dog now. Where was he supposed to go? Moreover, the Yi family had treated him well. He would not be stupid enough to leave before he recovered his human body. "So, you're saying that you want to stay?" Yi Chen was surprised. "That's right." Nether nodded and said, "The world is vast, but fellow Taoist Yi is the only one who shares a common language with me. Moreover, with fellow Taoist Ye's terrifying natural talent, I believe that I'll recover faster if I stay by your side." What he meant was clear. He wanted to follow Yi Chen. He had seen how terrifying Yi Chen was. An ordinary spirit assembly cultivator's combat strength was comparable to a martial Tao master at most. Moreover, their physical bodies were not strong enough. However, Yi Chen was the opposite. Not only was his physical body invincible, he could even defeat all martial Tao masters with his cultivation base that was not even at foundation building. He had such a strong thigh. The patriarch of hell would not hug him tightly unless he was stupid. "Sure." Yi Chen smiled lightly. "It's fine if you want to stay, but you know what to do. The grudge between us is over. We don't owe each other anything in the future. If you want to benefit from me, you have to work hard." "It doesn't matter." The patriarch of hell shrugged and said with a grin, Give me something to eat first. Australian lobster, dragon, and king crab. After I finish eating, I have to go out and find a little girl to have fun with." In the past few days when he was unconscious, he had not drunk a drop of water. Coupled with the fact that he had not completely abstained from eating, he was famished. Yi Chen nodded and was about to instruct Lin Tai. At this moment the patriarch suddenly said, "Oh yeah, remember to add some dog food in it. It's the same brand, the same taste. P.S. Today's update is over. There are 2 chapters left, so there will be 4 chapters tomorrow and the day after. Please give me your recommendation tickets and monthly ticket." "Brothers, thank you." Chapter 406. Ever since old ancestor Yellow Spring woke up, Yi Chen's status in the family was considered to have plummeted. Almost everyone in the family revolved around the patriarch, especially his mother, Wu Lan. She could not stop cooking all sorts of delicious dishes for the patriarch. In less than a week, Yi Chen watched as the patriarch's body grew bigger. However, the patriarch did not care at all. He brought Yang Tian and Lin Tai to all the big clubs every day. After being despised by Yi Chen, Yang Tian began to suspect that his talent in cultivation was really trash. Since he kept sucking up to the patriarch, he wanted the patriarch to give him some pointers. Eventually, he became the patriarch's lackey. Yi Chen did not care at all. After all, the patriarch of hell was a tribulation stage cultivator in his previous life. If he could not even guide 2 spirit assembly stage rookies, then he might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. In the past few days, Yi Chen secretly used the energy in his hands to collect the medicinal herbs needed to refine the foundation establishment pill while enjoying the days with his family. Under his instructions, Yaffle Corporation officially changed its name to Star Group. With the investment of all the big shots in Tiannan, its market value reached hundreds of billions. As soon as such a huge company appeared, it caused an earthquake in the entire Tiannan and even China. Countless forces secretly investigated the Star Group's background, but to their surprise, they found nothing. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air. In name, Star Group's main business was cosmetic. They had many subsidiaries under them, and each company was engaged in different things. From raw materials to production to logistics to direct sales, it was almost a complete ecological chain. Among them, Su Yuhan was the president and director of Star Group. Yang Tian and Lin Tai were the general manager and deputy general manager respectively. As for Yiwen, Gao Hong, the former general manager of Yaffle Company, and the rest, they were assigned to the various subsidiaries to take charge of the overall situation. This was Yi Chen's plan. He wanted to gather the wealth of the 9 regions and all the treasures in the world. He wanted to build his woman into a business queen because his woman did not need to work for others. She did not need to listen to others. As for him, he just needed to be the man behind the domineering female CEO. As for whether Star Group could make a profit, he was not worried at all. He had the spiritual medicine mountain, Miaojiang, the Murong family of Guangzhou, the Tang family of Hong Kong, and many other resources. He also had countless miraculous medicines that could benefit society. Just cosmetics alone, if the beauty pill was diluted and sold to the public, it would definitely cause a global sensation and dominate the entire market. All of these were only in the near future. If the group grew bigger and stronger, Yi Chen could build a school when he had enough resources. Not only would the school allow students to learn scientific knowledge, but it would also allow them to cultivate. At that time, a huge interest group would be like a towering tree overlooking the entire world. Who would dare to touch his family? On this day, in the living room of the Yi family, Yi Chen sat on the couch and hugged the little girl. He took out the weight loss pill that he had refined earlier and said lovingly, "My dear daughter, come, eat this. Daddy, I've recovered from my illness. I don't want to eat this anymore. It's disgusting." The little guy shook his head like a rattle drum and refused to eat it no matter what. Yi Chen said in amusement and annoyance, "This isn't bitter. After eating it, my baby won't get fat no matter how much he eat." "Godfather, I want to eat," Yang Hao said in a childish voice. "No." Upon hearing that, the little girl swallowed the weight loss pill in Yi Chen's hand. She pouted and said, "My daddy gave this to me. If you want to eat it, ask your daddy to refine one for you too." Little Yang Hao, who was over 3 years old, was stunned for a moment before he burst into tears. Tears flowed down his face as he turned his head and ran out while staggering. "Daddy, Sister Meng Meng is bullying me." Yi Chen was a little helpless. "You're older than Yang Hao. You have to give in to him, understand? He's so annoying." The little girl scoffed, "Daddy, he's too annoying. He cries for no reason and has a runny nose. He's like a slug. He doesn't look like a boy at all." "Then what kind of boy do you like?" Yi Chen could not help but laugh. A huge rock was lifted from his heart. From the looks of it, the Yang family's bastard would never be able to seduce his little princess in the future. Smack! The little girl smacked his face and giggled. "I like boys like Daddy, the ones who fight fiercely." Yi Chen was speechless. At that moment, Lin Tai walked in and whispered into his ear, "My lord, the people from Dragon Soul are here. They want to see you. They seem to be in a hurry." Yi Chen frowned slightly and eventually said, "Why is it them again?" "Get them to wait for me in the living room." Lin Tai responded and turned around to leave. "Go play with your brother Yang Hao. Give him this medicinal pill. Don't bully him anymore. He'll protect you when he grows up." Yi Chen let go of his daughter and handed her a weight loss pill. Subsequently, he walked to the living room. The little girl clicked her tongue and waved her little fist. She said proudly, "Let that slug protect me? I can defeat him with one hand." Yi Chen staggered when he heard that. Like father, like daughter. In the living room of the Yi residence's villa, a man and a lady were sitting on the couch at the moment. The lady looked valiant and experienced. She was no more than 30 years old, while the man seemed rather young. He looked like he was in his 20s, but indignation was written all over his face. The young man lifted his head to look at the decorations in the house, and could not help but scoff. Sisterly, he hasn't come out for a long time. It's obvious that he's trying to intimidate us. I think we should go back. Zoe, let's wait a little longer. After all, this concerns the Dragon King's life. Although Li Ying, who was sitting next to him, looked indignant, she sighed softly. Sisterly, I admit that mad Southern Yi has great ability, but I won't believe that he can save the Dragon King, the young man scoffed. As a member of Dragon Soul with the name of the Azure Dragon, he valued the Dragon Soul's dignity more than his life. However, Yi Chen rejected the Dragon Soul's invitation earlier. How could he not be furious? The Dragon King was severely injured. Even Miracle Dr. Zhang from the Zhang family of Huanan might not be able to save him. How could Yi Chen, who only knew how to kill, save him? Li Ying said nothing after hearing that. In reality, she thought Li Zuei was right. After all, Yi Chen was a ruthless killer in everyone's heart. He had never shown his medical skills. It sounded ridiculous for her to ask such a person to save the Dragon King. However, Yi Chen was recommended by Old Chen from the military. She could only come to ask Yi Chen in doubt. Just when they were talking, Yi Chen walked in. He said calmly after glancing at both of them quickly, "Tell me, what's the matter? If it's your Dragon King who wants to see me like before, then leave. I won't be seeing you out." Yi. Li Zuei was enraged. He stood up and said, "What? Our Dragon King wants to see you? Is it an insult to your dignity?" Yi Chen chuckled. "Zuei, sit down." Li Ying glared at Li Zuei and looked at Yi Chen. She said with a straight face, "Mad Southern Yi, we'd like you to save someone." Chapter 407. You're asking me to save someone? Yi Chen came to a realization. Subsequently, he glanced at Li Zuei next to him wryly. "Is this how you guys ask me to save someone?" Li Zuei was furious. Just when he was going to explode, Li Ying stopped him. "Mr. Yi, there might have been some misunderstanding earlier. However, we're recommended by Old Chen. We're sincerely asking you to save someone." "Old Chen?" Yi Chen nodded lightly and said, "I wonder who you guys want me to save. I can't tell you at the moment. No matter what, just come with us." Li Ying shook her head and rejected him. She was very mysterious. "I'm sorry. Have a safe trip." Yi Chen shrugged. Li Zuei, who had been holding it in, could no longer hold it in. "Aren't you number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard? What's there to be proud of? We, the Dragon Soul, have come to you because we think highly of you. Don't be so shameless." Even the Heavenly Palace had to respect the Dragon Soul's invitation. However, Yi Chen dared to reject them time and time again. Li Ying's expression changed slightly upon hearing that. However, she did not stand up to mediate the situation. Clearly, Yi Chen's attitude had angered her, the vermilion bird of the Dragon Soul. Yi Chen smiled calmly, facing what Li Zuei said. "Firstly, you guys are asking me to save someone. Since you're asking me to save someone, you should act like you're begging me. Secondly, since you guys are asking me to save someone, don't hide it from me. Thirdly, it all depends on my mood whether I'm going to save someone or not. Fourthly, since the Dragon Soul is so powerful, why are you guys begging me?" He walked out without even turning his head as he spoke. At the same time, he said to Lin Tai, who was guarding the door, "Send the guest out." Li Ying said immediately upon seeing that, "Mr. Yi, please wait. We're asking you to save the Dragon King." Yi Chen stopped walking as if he did not hear her. Li Ying spoke again, "The Dragon King is injured. Moreover, he's injured because of you." Yi Chen stopped walking and turned around to look at her. "He's injured because of me?" "That's right." After witnessing his methods, Li Ying didn't dare to play around anymore. She nodded and said, "When you offended the Heavenly Palace, we were ordered by the Dragon King to protect you." After that, the Lord of the Heavenly Palace personally went to see the Dragon King. At this point, she paused for a moment before continuing angrily. The Dragon King and the Palace Master of the Sky Palace have fought and both of them are injured. Especially the Dragon King. He is now seriously injured and on the verge of death. She would never forget that day when the Dragon King was carried back by the old bull. His body was covered with blood and he was barely breathing. The dragon's soul exhausted all its resources but could only keep him alive. Later on, they even invited Dr. Zhang from the Zhang family of Huanan, but Dr. Zhang was also helpless. If the Dragon King were to die, the dragon's soul would be without a leader. The Heavenly Palace would definitely take the opportunity to attack. By then, a huge storm would be set off in China. "Let's go." Yi Chen turned around and walked out. Li Ying was stunned. Subsequently, she followed him with Li Ziwei in surprise. She said in surprise, "Mr. Yi, did you agree to it?" Yi Chen looked at her expressionlessly and said, "I didn't do it because of the dragon's soul, so don't overthink it." It was not his first time hearing about the Dragon King. The Heavenly Palace had stopped him after he destroyed the Shui family. Although Yi Chen was not afraid of them, the Dragon King had helped him during the critical moment. Since that was the case, it was only natural for him to not do anything. "So, how confident are you?" Li Ziwei questioned. After what happened earlier, it was not appropriate for him to provoke Yi Chen anymore. Li Ying could not help but look at him. Yi Chen smiled lightly as if he was talking about something very normal. "As long as he's alive, I'm 100% confident." Li Ziwei secretly scoffed. Li Ziwei sneered inwardly. Li Ying couldn't help but shake her head. 100% confident? Which doctor would dare to say that? Even Dr. Zhang from the Zhang family of Huanan only had 30% confidence. It seemed like he was another person who liked to boast. At that moment, the duo was even more doubtful of Yi Chen's ability. Yi Chen did not care about what the duo thought. He walked out of the villa after informing Lin Tai. There was a green jeep parked outside. It must be Li Ying and Li Ziwei's. "Mr. Yi, didn't you bring a first aid kit?" Li Ying could not help but ask while frowning, seeing that he was treating his wounds empty-handed. "No." Yi Chen got into the car after saying that. Li Ying secretly shook her head and looked at Ziwei by instinct. The disappointment inside of her was growing. "Let's go." Li Ziwei snorted coldly, started the car, and got on the highway. After driving to the suburbs, an armed helicopter came to pick them up. The Dragon Soul was rather mysterious in the country as it was a highly confidential organization. Meanwhile, the Dragon Soul base was even more mysterious. Only a handful of people in the entire China knew its exact location. Taihang Mountain, also known as Mount Wangmu and Mount Wuxing, spanned across 4 provinces. It was located between northern Hebei and western Jinshan. Mount Wangwu in the south and the Xishan Plateau in the west. The Dragon Soul headquarters happened to be located in the Taihang Mountain range. According to Li Ying, there were less than 100 members in the entire Dragon Soul. Therefore, it was insignificant compared to the Taihang Mountain. Although the Dragon King was severely injured, the Dragon Soul base was training as usual. Many people were sitting on the grass field casually on the military field. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and could not stop talking. Meanwhile, a square-faced man in a military uniform was accompanying an old man. The old man was approximately 70 years old, but he looked like he was in his 60s. He was high-spirited and had no white hair on his head. The square-faced man lifted his eyes to look at the messy team members far away. He would have walked over to reprimand them if it were any other day. However, he could not bring himself to do that at such a moment. After some hesitation, he eventually looked at the old man next to him and could not help but ask, "Old Zhang, is our boss really hopeless?" "It's difficult." Old Zhang sighed softly. The Dragon King is seriously injured. There is too much energy in his body and it is extremely violent. It has hurt his heart and lungs. If he acts rashly, he will trigger the energy. The consequences will be unimaginable. Moreover, he has lost too much blood. Unless you go to the spiritual medicine mountain and ask Yao Huayuan to come out. However, I heard that Yao Huayuan has never been in contact with the government. He does not have much time left, so I'm afraid he won't come out easily. At this point, he paused and shook his head slightly. If you had asked me to treat him yesterday, there might have been a glimmer of hope. But now, upon hearing that, the square-faced man's expression darkened. There was a hint of anger on his face. That girl Liang is really too much. Yesterday I suggested that you treat him, but she disagreed. She even said that there must be another way to treat the Dragon King. I heard that too. Old Zhang smiled faintly. Comrade Li went to invite an expert. I hope the expert she invited has a way to treat him. Although he said that, he was more disdainful. As the descendant of Zhang Zhongjing, Zhang Xianyu had started learning medicine at the age of 5, reached the 10th grade at the age of 10, and was respected as a national master at the age of 50. In the entire China, Yao Huayuan from the spiritual medicine mountain was the only one who could compete with him in terms of medical skills. How could anyone else treat an illness that even he could not? Let's wait for Liang to come back. If there's really no other way, we can only ask old Zhang to treat him. The square-faced man sighed. Just as they were talking, a helicopter flew over from afar. The square-faced man could not help but be elated. Li Ying and the rest are back. However, his expression immediately turned grim. What's going on with Li Ying? Didn't she go to invite a miracle doctor? Why did she bring a young man back? P.S. Chapter 2, 4 chapters today. There are 2 more chapters to go. Please recommend it. Monthly votes. Chapter 408. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The helicopter stopped above the base with its huge propellers spinning, producing a loud roar. Meanwhile, the hundreds of people on the ground lifted their heads to look at it. Mr. Yi, we're here. Liang took a good look at the team members on the ground first. Subsequently, she turned to look at Yi Chen and reminded him coldly, Mr. Yi, I'm taking the risk to get you here. I hope that you won't disappoint me later. You guys will know if I'm disappointed or not. Yi Chen closed his eyes to rest, not caring at all. Li Ziwei secretly scoffed when he saw him like that. I'd like to see how the people below are going to tear you apart when you can't treat the Dragon King. He knew the people of the Dragon Soul very well. They were all elite talents that had been carefully selected from the various military departments. They had their eyes on the top of their heads and were extremely conceited. It was not stupidity, but arrogance and confidence. If they found out that Yi Chen was the so-called miracle doctor, they might not be able to hold it in and attack him. Liang secretly shook her head and urged the pilot to descend the helicopter. The strong wind from the propellers blew the grass on the ground into pieces. Meanwhile, the people's discussion became clearer. Didn't Sister Li go to see the miracle doctor? Why did she bring a young man back? Don't tell me that this brat is some miracle doctor? Looking at that brat, I think he's only in his 20s. Is he a miracle doctor? Even if he started learning medical skills in his mother's womb, he wouldn't be able to do it. It's ridiculous to get such a person to treat our boss. It's ridiculous to get such a person to treat our boss. Show that brat something. Meanwhile, the square-faced man standing aside had a grim expression on his face. He seemed like he was going to explode. Meanwhile, old Zhang, who was next to him, had a mocking expression on his face. His eyes paused on Yi Chen for a while as he scoffed. I thought the person who's coming would be a god. I can't believe it's a brat who's still wet behind the ears. He secretly shook his head. I was nervous about that earlier. I'm really getting old. As the helicopter landed, everyone immediately went forward and formed a circle around it. The square-faced man walked out from the circle and looked at Li Ying with an unfriendly expression. Xiao Li, is he the expert you invited? The rest also looked at Yi Chen in an unfriendly manner. Just as Li Ying was about to explain, Li Ziwei, who was beside her, spoke first. That's right, this is the so-called miracle doctor. He emphasized the words divine doctor, as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know. His eyes flashed with a hint of schadenfreude. As soon as he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. Even though they had already guessed it, they still found it unbelievable when they heard it for themselves. It's true. Sister Li, are you kidding me? Does this kid look like a divine doctor at all? That's right. I think this kid is weak and sickly. I reckon he's sick himself. How can he treat our boss? Chase him away. This is the dragon soul. Not just anyone can come in, especially a swindler and a swindler. Hearing everyone's discussion, Li Ying's expression changed slightly. She did not expect everyone to have such a big reaction. Li Ziwei smiled, revealing an expression that said, as expected. He could not help but look at Yi Chen by instinct. However, Yi Chen looked calm, as if he did not hear the people's rejection. Xiao Li, you're simply making trouble. Even the square-faced man couldn't help but scold him. He said rudely, You don't even believe Elder Zhang, but you believe a young man. Are you out of your mind? If not for his high self-restraint, he would get someone to chase Yi Chen out on the spot. Li Ying hurriedly explained, Captain Dong, Old Chen introduced Mr. Yi to me. Old Chen said that he knows alchemy, so his medical skills shouldn't be bad. Which Old Chen? Captain Dong asked. Old Chen from the military? Who else could it be other than him? Li Ying nodded. Captain Dong frowned and took a good look at Yi Chen. Even if Old Chen introduced him to us, we can't just trust him. After all, this is a serious matter. Moreover, does Old Chen really know how to refine medicinal pills just because he said so? At this point, he couldn't help but turn around and look at Elder Zhang behind him. Elder Zhang, do you know this person? To him, Old Zhang was known as the national master of China. He knew many people in the world, and he was from Xinglin world. If there was really an expert, he should know him. Old Zhang did not even look at Yi Chen. He closed his eyes and shook his head lightly. I think I have a lot of connections, but it's my first time seeing this little brother. I've never heard of your name. He suddenly opened his eyes and glared at Yi Chen in a threatening manner. This little brother knows how to refine medicinal pills? Can you prove it to me? I've lived for most of my life and I've done a lot of research on Chinese medicine. I'm also known as the national master, but I don't dare to say that I know how to refine medicinal pills? How dare a young brat say that he knows how to refine medicinal pills? That's right. As long as he can show us the medicinal pills, he can prove it. The rest reacted too. Li Ying could not help but look at Yi Chen, feeling rather anxious. Yi Chen chuckled softly as he met everyone's gaze. Indeed, I know how to refine medicinal pills. But why should I show it to you? Why should I prove myself? If you don't prove yourself, it's impossible for us to let you treat our boss. Captain Dong scoffed, thinking that Yi Chen was just pretending to be tough. Old Zhang said, From what I know, only the spiritual medicine mountain knows how to refine medicinal pills in the entire China. Could it be that you're a disciple of the spiritual medicine mountain? What's your relationship with Yao Huiyuan? Yao Huiyuan? He's just one of my servants. Yi Chen shrugged and said, You guys begged me to come here. I didn't shamelessly come here, so don't mess things up. The people were enraged as soon as they heard what he said. I can't believe that we're begging him. What an arrogant brat. We're already arrogant, but I can't believe that there's someone more arrogant than us. You can be arrogant, but you must have the ability to be arrogant. Brat, why don't we practice? I'll show you why the flowers are red. Li Ying could not help but feel annoyed seeing that Yi Chen had infuriated the crowd. Just when she was going to help him, another helicopter flew over from far away. At the same time, Captain Dong looked delighted. Joy filled Captain Dong's face. Xiaomao and the rest are back. Before this, he had listened to old Zhang's suggestion after Li Ying and the rest left. He had sent 2 people to Ganzhou's Spiritual Medicine Mountain to invite the Spiritual Medicine Mountain's mountain master, Yao Huiyuan. As the helicopter landed, 2 men and a lady walked out of the car. 2 men and a woman walked out of the car. The woman looked a little old and refused to be helped. She walked out with a cane and coughed from time to time. Captain Dong, old Zhang, and the rest went up to them immediately. Old Zhang said in slight shock, "Are you Ms. Yao?" Previously, he had heard that the Spiritual Medicine Mountain had offended a Dharma-perfected cultivator, causing the Dharma-perfected cultivator to attack the Spiritual Medicine Mountain and use a great divinity to extract Yao Huiyuan and Yao Bingyue's lifespan. He did not believe it at first, but now he was completely convinced. He could not believe that such an expert existed in this world. Cut the crap. Where's the Dragon King? Bring me there now. Yao Bingyue coughed a few times again while holding her walking stick. She seemed to be struggling. If not for the dragon soul that had paid a huge price, she would not have left the Spiritual Medicine Mountain so easily. Wait! Just when old Zhang was going to nod, he noticed Yi Chen behind him. He spoke all of a sudden, "Ms. Yao, let me introduce someone to you." "Who is it?" Yao Bingyue had impatience written all over her face. Old Zhang revealed a sly smile. "This person is here to treat the Dragon King too. He even said that he knows how to refine medicinal pills. He even said that Brother Yao is his servant." P.S. Chapter 3. There's one more chapter. Chapter 409. As Elder Zhang's voice fell, Li Ying's pretty face changed slightly. She knew that what Yi Chen said earlier had offended the Spiritual Medicine Mountain, so she could not help but open her mouth in an attempt to explain. However, Yao Bingyue said coldly, "Oh? Who was it? I really want to know who dares to sully my father's name." Although she sounded calm, the people could sense the chill in her voice. Old Zhang turned around and looked at Yi Chen innocently. "It's this little brother. I think Ms. Yao should know him." Many people present laughed out loud immediately. They looked at Yi Chen one after another, their eyes filled with anticipation. Even Li Ziwei was no exception. "Didn't you say you knew how to refine pills? Didn't you say that the mountain master of Spiritual Medicine Mountain is your servant?" It just so happened that Yao Huiyuan's daughter from the Spiritual Medicine Mountain was here. The main character is here. Let's see what else you have to say. Captain Dong frowned but said nothing in the end. To her, what Yi Chen said earlier was pure treason. It would be good to let him suffer a little. Yao Bingyue followed everyone's gaze and looked up. His entire person was instantly stunned. If one looked closely, they would notice that her hand, which was holding onto the walking stick, was trembling, as if she was very excited. When Elder Zhang saw this, he thought that Yao Bingyue was acting out of anger, and he couldn't help but smile mockingly. Yao Bingyue walked to Yi Chen with her walking stick. She walked very quickly, and the people thought that she was going to condemn him. However, the next moment, when she walked to Yi Chen, she suddenly tossed her walking stick away and knelt before Yi Chen while shaking. She said respectfully, "Yao Bingyue greets Master." Seeing this scene, the entire crowd fell silent. The expressions on everyone's faces immediately froze, and they remained motionless for a long time as if they had been petrified. However, the shock in their hearts could not be erased. What did they see? The only medicine refinement holy land in China, the daughter of the Spiritual Medicine Mountain's mountain master, who was sought after by all cultivators, Yao Bingyue, knelt before Yi Chen and even called him master. Li Ying was dumbfounded. Li Ziwei, Captain Dong, and the rest were in disbelief. Yi Chen saw everyone's expression. He held his head down to look at Yao Bingyue and said, "The floor is cold. Get up." He could feel that Yao Bingyue's personality had changed a lot after what had happened. Her respect for him had reached an extreme level. In fact, although the news of him killing 5 people on the international influential ranking list in Hong Kong was kept a secret, many people still found out about it. The Spiritual Medicine Mountain was one of them. After all, the Spiritual Medicine Mountain had businesses all over the world, so it was easy for them to get some information. This shocked Yao Huayuan and his daughter even more. "Thank you, master." Yao Bingwe thanked him and trembled. Old Zhang simply didn't dare to believe everything before his eyes, and he couldn't help but say, "Niece Yao, what are you doing? Could it be that what the kid said just now was true? Was Yao Huayuan really his slave? But how was that possible? One must know that Yao Huayuan was not only the master of the Spiritual Medicine Mountain, but he was also an illuminating God powerhouse and a perfected cultivator in China. "Shut up." Yao Bingwe turned her head and glared at him coldly. Old Zhang's face turned pale. He was rather embarrassed. "Niece Yao, is what this brat said true?" "Niece?" Yao Bingwe scoffed. "Who's your niece?" "Zhang, don't think that you can claim to be my relative just because you're a national master. In reality, you're nothing to my Spiritual Medicine Mountain. Your Zhang family of Wannan is as weak as an ant." She looked at Yi Chen with slight respect and said while glancing at the people, "That's right. Mr. Yi is indeed the master of my Spiritual Medicine Mountain. His medical skills are unparalleled, and he's an expert in alchemy. Instead of using such an expert, you guys invited me here. You guys are extremely stupid." "What?" The people were horrified to hear that. Shock filled their faces. Liang covered her red lips tightly while old Zhang retreated a few steps back. If they scoffed at what Yi Chen said earlier, they had no choice but to believe what Yao Bingwe said and what she did. Recruited? A thought flashed through old Zhang's head. He inhaled sharply and looked at Yi Chen as if he was a ghost. He suddenly recalled that an expert had taken away Yao Huayuan and his daughter's lifespan with his supernatural power earlier. He had lamented that he did not have the luck to see the expert's face earlier. Never had he thought that the expert would be right before him. He walked over immediately and bowed to Yi Chen as he thought to this point. "I failed to recognize you. I hope that you won't blame me, Mr. Yi." Yi Chen responded coldly and looked at Liang, who was standing aside in shock. "I don't have much time. Where's the Dragon King? Bring me there." Oh, sure." Liang snapped back to her senses and walked in front clumsily. She was secretly shocked. She roughly knew about Yi Chen's situation. She knew that he ranked number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard, but she had no idea that he had medical skills. The reason why she invited Yi Chen was because of old Chen's recommendation. Moreover, nobody could treat the Dragon King's injury, so she took old Chen's advice as a last resort. Since the beginning, Yi Chen did not show that he had medical skills at all. She had lost all hope. Never had she thought that Yi Chen would be the Spiritual Medicine Mountain's master in the end. It seemed like the outside world had underestimated him. She sucked in a breath of cold air. Meanwhile, Captain Dong and the rest did not move at all. They stared at Yi Chen's silhouette blankly, feeling a burning sensation on their cheeks. Over 10 minutes later, Yi Chen followed Liang into a house. On the surface, the house was no different from an ordinary guest house. However, Yi Chen discovered through his divine consciousness that there were many special materials in the building. As they merged with each other, they formed an unusually sturdy defense. It was so sturdy that even if a bomber were to drop a bomb from the sky, the house would not be damaged at all. Even if a few martial Dao masters were to attack it together, they would not be able to do anything to it. It was indeed the dragon's soul. He secretly nodded. The defense of the house was tight. There was almost a sentry every 5 steps and a sentry every 10 steps. There were also all sorts of infrared scans. Soon, he followed Liang to a small house. The house was facing the south, so it was relatively bright. However, there was the smell of cow dung and Chinese herbs coming from it at the moment. Meanwhile, there was an ice coffin in the middle of the house. An old man lay in the ice coffin. The old man had mediocre features like an old farmer. His hands were placed before his chest, and his eyes were closed. He looked very peaceful. There was an old yellow bull lying next to the ice coffin. As Yi Chun and the rest entered, the old yellow bull that was initially listless stood up immediately. It could not stop scratching its hooves as it glared at Yi Chen with slight hostility. "Old Yellow, don't be rash," Li Ying comforted immediately. "Mr. Yi is here to save the Dragon King." Seeming to sense Yi Chen's doubt, she introduced again. "Mr. Yi, this bull is called Old Yellow. The Dragon King raised it since it was young. It's 30 years old now." Yi Chen was surprised. Theoretically, a bull's lifespan was 12 to 18 years. On average, it would live for 15 years under the premise that it was not sick. However, the bull before him was already 30 years old. Meanwhile, the Dragon King of China was raising a bull. That was interesting. P.S. This is the 4th chapter. There's still one more chapter to go. Please recommend it. Good night. Chapter 410. You're asking me to save someone? Yi Chun came to a realization. Subsequently, he glanced at Li Ziwei next to him wryly. Is this how you guys ask me to save someone? Li Ziwei was furious. Just when he was going to explode, Li Ying stopped him. Mr. Yi, there might have been some misunderstanding earlier. However, we're recommended by Old Chun. We're sincerely asking you to save someone. Old Chun? Yi Chen nodded lightly and said, I wonder who you guys want me to save. I can't tell you at the moment. No matter what, just come with us. Li Ying shook her head and rejected him. She was very mysterious. I'm sorry. Have a safe trip. Yi Chen shrugged. Li Ziwei, who had been holding it in, could no longer hold it in. Aren't you number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard? What's there to be proud of? We, the Dragon Soul, have come to you because we think highly of you. Don't be so shameless. Even the Heavenly Palace had to respect the Dragon Soul's invitation. However, Yi Chen dared to reject them time and time again. Li Ying's expression changed slightly upon hearing that, but she did not stand up to mediate the situation. Clearly, Yi Chen's attitude had angered her, the vermilion bird of the Dragon Soul. Yi Chen smiled calmly facing what Li Ziwei said. Firstly, you guys are asking me to save someone. Since you're asking me to save someone, you should act like you're begging me. Secondly, since you guys are asking me to save someone, don't hide it from me. Thirdly, it all depends on my mood whether I'm going to save him or not. Fourthly, since the Dragon Soul is so powerful, why are you guys begging me? He walked out without even turning his head after saying that. At the same time, he said to Lin Tai, who was guarding the door, send the guest out. Li Ying said immediately upon seeing that, Mr. Yi, please wait. We're asking you to save the Dragon King. Yi Chen did not stop walking as if he did not hear her. Li Ying spoke again. The Dragon King is injured, and he's injured because of you. Yi Chen stopped walking and turned around to look at her. He's injured because of me? That's right. After witnessing his methods, Li Ying didn't dare to play around anymore. She nodded and said, When you offended the Heavenly Palace, we were ordered by the Dragon King to protect you. After that, the Lord of the Heavenly Palace personally went to see the Dragon King. At this point, she paused for a moment before continuing angrily. The Dragon King and the Palace Master of the Heavenly Palace have fought and both of them are injured. Especially the Dragon King. He is now seriously injured and on the verge of death. She would never forget that day when the Dragon King was carried back by the old bull. His body was covered with blood and he was barely breathing. The Dragon Soul exhausted all its resources but could only keep him alive. Later on, they even invited Dr. Zhang of the Zhang family of Wannan, but he was also at a loss on how to save him. If the Dragon King were to die, the Dragon Soul would be without a leader. The Heavenly Palace would definitely take the opportunity to attack. By then, a huge storm would be set off in China. Let's go. Yi Chen turned around and walked out. Li Ying was stunned. Subsequently, she followed him with Li Ziwei in surprise. She said in surprise, "Mr. Yi, did you agree to it?" Yi Chen looked at her expressionlessly and said, "I didn't do it because of the dragon soul, so don't overthink it." It was not his first time hearing about the Dragon King. The Heavenly Palace stopped him after he destroyed the Shui family. Although Yi Chen was not afraid of them, the Dragon King had helped him during the critical moment. Since that was the case, it was only natural for him to do nothing. "So, how confident are you?" Li Ziwei questioned. After what happened earlier, it was not appropriate for him to provoke Yi Chen anymore. Li Ying could not help but look at him. Yi Chen smiled lightly as if he was talking about something very normal. "As long as he's still alive, I'm 100% confident." Li Ziwei secretly scoffed. Li Ziwei sneered inwardly. Li Ying couldn't help but shake her head. 100% confident? Which doctor would dare to say that? Even Dr. Zhang of the Zhang family of Huanan only had 30% confidence. It seemed like he was another person who liked to boast. At that moment, the duo was even more doubtful of Yi Chen's ability. Yi Chen did not care about what the duo thought. He walked out of the villa after informing Lin Tai. There was a green jeep parked outside. It must be Li Ying and Li Ziwei who drove it. "Mr. Yi, didn't you bring a first aid kit?" Li Ying could not help but ask while frowning when she saw him treating his wounds empty-handed. "No." Yi Chen got into the car after saying that. Li Ying secretly shook her head and looked at Ziwei by instinct. The disappointment inside of her was growing. "Let's go." Li Ziwei snorted coldly, started the car, and got on the highway. After driving to the suburbs, an armed helicopter came to pick them up. The Dragon Soul was rather mysterious in the country as it was a highly confidential organization. Meanwhile, the Dragon Soul base was even more mysterious. There were less than a handful of people in the entire China who knew its exact location. Taihang Mountain, also known as Mount Wangmu and Mount Wuxing, spanned across 4 provinces. It was located between northern Hebei and western Jinshan. Mount Wangwu in the south and the Xishan Plateau in the west. The Dragon Soul headquarters happened to be located in Taihang Mountain. According to Li Ying, there were less than 100 members in the entire Dragon Soul along the way. Therefore, it was like a drop in the ocean when compared to Taihang Mountain. Although the Dragon King was severely injured, the Dragon Soul base was training as usual. Many people were sitting on the grass field casually on the military field. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and could not stop talking. Meanwhile, a square-faced man in a military uniform was accompanying an old man. The old man was approximately 70 years old, but he looked like he was in his 60s. He was high-spirited and had no white hair on his head. The square-faced man lifted his eyes to look at the messy team members far away. He would have walked over to reprimand them if it were any other day. However, he could not bring himself to do that at such a moment. After some hesitation, he eventually looked at the old man next to him and could not help but ask, "Old Zhang, is our boss really hopeless?" "It's difficult." Old Zhang sighed softly. "The Dragon King is seriously injured. There is too much energy in his body and it is extremely violent. It has already injured his heart and lungs. If he acts rashly, he will trigger the energy and the consequences will be unimaginable. Moreover, he has lost too much blood. Unless you go to the Spiritual Medicine Mountain and ask Yao Huayuan to come out." However, I heard that Yao Huayuan has never been in contact with the government. Moreover, he does not have much time left. I'm afraid he won't come out easily. At this point, he paused and shook his head slightly. If you had asked me to treat him yesterday, there might have been a glimmer of hope. However, now, upon hearing that, the square-faced man's expression darkened. There was a hint of anger on his face. That girl Li Ying is really too much. Yesterday I suggested that you treat him, but she disagreed. She even said that there must be another way to treat the Dragon King. I heard that too. Old Zhang smiled faintly. Comrade Li went to invite an expert. I hope the expert she invited has a way to treat him. Although he said that, he was more disdainful. As the descendant of Zhang Zhongjing, Zhang Xianyu had started learning medicine at the age of 5, reached the 10th grade at the age of 10, and was respected as a national master at the age of 50. In the entire China, only Yao Huayuan from the spiritual medicine mountain could compete with him in terms of medical skills. How could anyone else treat an illness that even he could not? Let's wait for Li Ying to come back. If there's really no other way, we can only ask old Zhang to treat him. The square-faced man sighed. Just as they were talking, a helicopter flew over from afar. The square-faced man could not help but be elated. Li Ying and the rest are back. However, his expression immediately turned grim. What's going on with Li Ying? Didn't she go to invite a miracle doctor? Why did she bring a young man back? P.S. Chapter 2, 4 chapters today. There are 2 more chapters to go. Please recommend and vote. Chapter 4:11. Outside the Dragon Soul Base. Yi Chen and the members of the Dragon Soul Base stood next to a rice field that was specially cultivated. The field was approximately 2 acres. According to Li Ying, the Dragon Soul Base had specially cultivated it. It was mainly self-sufficient. Apart from the rice field, there were orchards, vegetable fields, and even livestock. Apart from carrying out missions, they would do farm work and train. It was the rule that the Dragon King had set. At that moment, the rice field before them was filled with water. A man and a cow were busy in the field. Within half an hour, they had plowed more than half of the rice field that was close to 2 acres. Who else could it be other than the Dragon King and Yellow Ox? Yi Chen watched that, feeling rather stunned. Subsequently, he turned his head and said to Li Ying next to him, I didn't know that the Dragon King has such a hobby. The dignified Dragon Soul King was like an ordinary farmer plowing the field. No one would believe it if word of this got out. Li Ying smiled awkwardly and dared not say anything. In reality, not only did Yi Chen think so, but they thought so too. Putting aside the Dragon King's identity, the man in the field was really like an ordinary old farmer. Half an hour had passed, and the 2 acres of paddy field had been plowed. The Dragon King led Yellow Ox ashore and sat barefooted under a big tree. He took out a tobacco pipe and started smoking. His face was full of satisfaction and contentment. Li Ying got the rest to disperse. She went to the canteen to remind them to cook. She even cut some grass for Yellow Ox. At that moment, only the 2 of them and a cow were left. Do you want a puff? The Dragon King squatted on the ground and passed the pipe to Yi Chen. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He did not mind. After taking a deep puff, he lifted his eyes to take a good look at the field before him. He said, It's great. Do you think I'm weird? He mumbled to himself. Before Yi Chen could speak, he looked at Bai Tian and Xiushui. Don't you think that plowing the field is the greatest and most fulfilling thing in this world? Humans, the meaning of life is to live, and to live a better life. Fields and land are the gifts of God to humans. He smoked his pipe. Therefore, in my opinion, farming and farming have summed up the tens of thousands of years of human civilization in China. People live because of the land, and when they die, they return to the land and turn into soil to nourish the next generation. However, there are some people who were born on the land. After becoming a fish that leaped over the dragon gate and gained the ability to climb the heavens, they changed. They despised the land and life. They felt that they didn't need the land anymore. They felt that they could control nature and the world. Dragon King, what are you trying to say? Yi Chen asked. The Dragon King slowly raised his head and looked at him. The wrinkles on his face were like withered tree bark. Don't call me Dragon King. My name is Niu Qingshan, but they all call me Niu Batian. I don't like this title because I was born in the late Qing dynasty. I was the son of a farmer. My parents were tenant farmers in the northwestern region. My future should have been to inherit the fate of being poor, ignorant, and lowly. I should have continued herding cattle for the landlord, plowing the land, planting crops, marrying a similarly poor woman to carry on the family line, and let my son continue like this. But everything changed. Perhaps he was smoking too fast, but he coughed a few times and said, "The Qing dynasty was over." A man called Sun Wen overthrew the Qing dynasty with the slogan of overthrowing feudalism and saving the country. He gave the fruit to Yuan Datu as soon as he was done. In the end, the society that he once saved became even more chaotic. The war between the warlords began. I still remember that I was only 16 that year. Our lives were even worse. My family used their connections to introduce me to an auto repair shop in the city as an apprentice. The boss was very strict and always scolded me. However, I knew that he was actually very kind. Every time I went to eat after I finished my work, there would be no rice left in the pot. The boss would call me over and scold me with a stern face. He would then give me a bowl of rice with 2 slices of braised pork on it. Yi Chen did not say a word and listened quietly. I had only worked in the auto repair shop for a month when the boss was shot to death by a group of people. Niu Qingshan puffed a smoke ring. The reason was that the boss's daughter tried to seduce them, and they killed the others. I was feeding the little red horse that the boss bought for his daughter in the backyard. After hearing the gunshots, the horse went crazy and collapsed the ground. I fell into the boss's cellar, and that was how I survived. I hid in the cellar for 3 days and 3 nights. I ate moldy sweet potatoes when I was hungry, and I drank underground water when I was thirsty. I only snuck out after I was sure that everything was fine. They were all dead. The boss was dead, the boss's daughter was dead, and the apprentices who bullied me were dead too. I'll never forget the boss's eyes that were wide open after he died. I'll never forget the scene of the others lying in a pool of blood. I ran out of the city like a madman. I didn't want to be rich anymore. I didn't want to earn money to get married. I just wanted to go home. In the end, I fell sick as soon as I left the city. I was very sick. I thought I was going to die at that time. When I woke up, I realized that I was lying in an old Taoist priest's embrace. Meanwhile, there were 3 kids who were a few years younger than me standing before the old Taoist priest. They were looking at me with numb, lifeless eyes. There was reminiscence and tears in Niu Qingshan's eyes as he spoke to this point. The old Taoist priest was my master later on. The other 3 kids were my junior brothers. I'll never forget that when I woke up, the first thing Master asked was, "Are you hungry, kid?" At that time, I nodded and said I wanted to eat meat. The master laughed and took out money to buy a few barbecued pork buns for us. The master's appearance reduced the fear in my heart a lot. His smile and his kind countenance made me see the shadow of the repair shop owner again. That night, Master took us to a warlord's house as guests. The warlord was called Commander Ma. He was ferocious. He called my master Master Qin and set up a very sumptuous banquet. My junior brothers and I didn't dare to look at him, let alone eat. Niu Qingshan flicked the pipe on his shoe and continued after taking a puff. At the banquet, I saw the person who killed the repair shop owner. It was Commander Ma's adjutant. I also saw the repair shop owner's daughter, Sister Hong. I called out to her on the spot, but Sister Hong kept saying that she didn't know me. I panicked and told her about the repair shop. I even said that the adjutant was the murderer. Sister Hong cried and said that her name wasn't Sister Hong and that she didn't know me. Master gave me a drumstick to stop me from talking. After dinner, Master led us out of the commander's mansion. However, on the way we encountered more than 30 people pointing guns at us. They were Commander Ma's men. Turned out that they wanted to kill us to silence us. Master asked me for the second time, "Kid, are you scared?" I said I'm scared, I'm very scared. Master smiled gently. "Kid, don't be scared. You won't be scared after I kill them all." Master attacked immediately after saying that. He scooped up a handful of sand from the ground. He killed over 30 people on the spot with just the sand. Yi Chen squinted slightly when he heard that. With such ability, he was at least a martial Dao master. P.S. There's a second chapter. The Dragon King's past is related to the subsequent plot. Please be patient. Chapter 412. That was the first time I saw Master fight. Niu Qingshan smiled. Including the few of us, we were all shocked by Master's power. We thought he was a god. On the night we returned, youngest junior brother, who was only 8 years old, was the first to kneel before Master and ask him to be his disciple. Master asked him why. I still remember youngest junior brother's first sentence was, "I want to kill. I want to kill all these B***stars. I want them to tremble in fear." Youngest junior brother's gaze is still fresh in my memory. I only found out later that youngest junior brother's parents died in the chaos. Youngest junior brother matured earlier than us. Compared to him, the few of us were much dumber. We were shocked by youngest junior brother's words and admired his courage. In the end, Master didn't accept him. He said that his murderous aura was too strong and he would go astray sooner or later. Master accepted us instead because I was the oldest, so I was the eldest senior brother. Youngest junior brother was very determined. He kept kneeling at the door and said that if Master didn't accept him, he would kneel until he died of old age. Master told us to ignore him. After a night, we all heard that Commander Ma's residence was destroyed, including Commander Ma himself. Everyone thought that it was retribution for Commander Ma's evil deeds. Only youngest junior brother and I knew that Commander Ma was actually killed by Master because I didn't see Master when I woke up that night. Yi Chen said, "Is your master still alive?" He agreed with what this person did. However, if it were him, he would not take revenge that night. Instead, he would kill his way to the door. This person was a martial Dao master more than 100 years ago. If he was still alive, his ability would definitely be terrifying. He's not. Niu Qingshan shook his head lightly. Yi Chen secretly nodded. He thought to himself that was how ancient martial artists were. No matter how powerful they were still human. They could not escape the pain of reincarnation. Niu Qingshan continued. Youngest junior brother really knelt at Master's door for 7 days and 7 nights. In the end, Master was moved by his sincerity. That night, the 4 of us knelt before Master to serve him tea. In terms of seniority, Master only said one thing to us at that time. "If you can protect the world, all the poor will be happy." Master told us to be benevolent and chivalrous, and not to bully the weak with martial arts. After that, I returned to my hometown and learned that my parents had passed away. After paying my respects to them, Master took us into the mountains to escape the chaos of war. At that time, junior brother asked why Master didn't kill all these bad people since he was so capable. Master smiled and said, "If you have epilepsy and your limbs twitch, would it be useful to chop them off?" Yi Chen vaguely sensed the hidden meaning in his words. The 4 of us stayed on the mountain with Master for a total of 15 years, and then followed Master to explore the outside world for another 10 years. Niu Qingshan said, "In the past 10 years we've encountered bandits and killed bandits. Although youngest junior brother is the youngest, he's more talented than all of us. In just a few years, he broke through to the peak of illuminating pulse. Later on, he broke through to martial Dao Grandmaster before us. On the night of Master's 98th birthday, we cooked a bowl of longevity noodles for Master and bought a bottle of wine. However, Master told us that his time was almost up. After eating this bowl of noodles, he was going to fulfill a long-cherished wish. At that time I noticed that there was something wrong with Master's tone, so I asked subconsciously, "Master, are you going to die?" Master smiled and said that everyone has died since ancient times. He would have no regrets if he could use his dying body to do something. At that time, we all cried and knelt on the ground, not letting Master go. In the end, Master drank the longevity noodles that night and left resolutely. Before he left, he laughed 3 times. At this point, Niu Qingshan's hand that was holding the tobacco pipe trembled slightly. From then on, there was no news of Master. We didn't know if he was dead or alive. We waited for him for a year, 5 years, even 10 years. In the end, we confirmed that he was dead and built a cenotaph for him. Your master went to Shang Santian? Yi Chen asked. Niu Qingshan took a good look at him, as if he did not expect Yi Chen to guess so accurately. He nodded, that's right. During the chaotic period, many people came from Shang Santian. These people ignored life and death and thought that they were superior. My master said that Shang Santian is the source of evil, so he wanted to eliminate evil. In the end, your master died. Yi Chen sighed softly. We didn't know about the existence of Shang Santian back then. Niu Qingshan said in a deep voice, since we couldn't wait for master, youngest junior brother suggested that we split up. Moreover, second junior brother and third junior brother wanted to enter the world, and I couldn't stop them. The 4 of us could only go our separate ways in the end. 10 years later, there were 4 famous talents in the world. They were Niu Batian, Lei Feihu, Dai Tinglu, and Guan Shangyue. Among them, Guan Shangyue was the most famous. He defeated everyone on Mount Hua and was honored as a martial arts legend. The other 3 must be your junior brothers, am I right? Yi Chen smiled lightly as he gradually understood his intention. That's right. Niu Qingshan nodded lightly and said, Lei Feihu is my second junior brother, Dai Tinglu is my third junior brother, and Guan Shangyue is my little junior brother. The 4 of us drifted apart due to different ideals, which led to us becoming enemies. In the end, I, Niu Batian, returned to the Dragon Group, Lei Feihu settled down in Hong Kong, and Dai Tinglu guarded Shanghai. Meanwhile, your little junior brother, Guan Shangyue, is in the Heaven Return Palace. He's the Heavenly Palace's palace master. Yi Chen revealed the truth before Niu Qingshan was done speaking. However, he was secretly surprised. He had just killed Lei Feihu's son. Now, he found out that Lei Feihu was the Dragon King's junior brother. Did that mean that he had offended all of them at the same time? You guessed it. Niu Qingshan was rather shocked. It's actually not difficult to guess it. Yi Chen chuckled softly. With your ability, there's only a handful of people in the world who can compare to you. I'm sure your 3 junior brothers are among them. You mentioned earlier that you guys don't get along with each other. The person who injured you should be the martial arts legend, Guan Shangyue. Then, he must be the Heavenly Palace's palace master. Amazing! Niu Qingshan shook his head lightly. That's right. My little junior brother, Guan Shangyue, is the Heavenly Palace's palace master. In China, his position is the same as mine. However, his ability is more powerful than mine, and his talent is higher than ours. Before this, he was the first to break through to Martial Dao Master. Later on, he was the first to break through to Martial Dao Venerable. Therefore, my dragon soul has been suppressed by the Heavenly Palace all these years. I chose to give in because of that. I never thought that I'd become enemies with my little junior brother again because of you, Mad Southern Yi. He forced a smile. During the battle at Heaven Lake, I was only a fake martial venerable. After fighting junior brother, although I injured him severely, I almost died. Theoretically, one was a fake martial venerable while the other was a real martial venerable. There was a huge difference between their abilities, so neither of them would be injured if they fought. However, although Niu Batian was old, he was not afraid of death. It was difficult to cool one's blood after drinking ice for 10 years. On the other hand, Guan Shangyue was used to seeking stability all these years. He was unwilling to get injured, so he seemed to be worried when they fought. That was why Niu Qingshan caught his flaws. He could not help but look at Yi Chen as he spoke to this point. Actually, I've been paying attention to you since the beginning. For example, when you killed Yuan Bupo, Northern Devil Jiang, and the rest, I thought you were my second little junior brother. You're a bloodthirsty person, so I wanted to kill you. Then, why didn't you do anything? Yi Chen smiled wryly. Because you stopped the U.S. Navy's Commodore Barton from entering our country's territorial waters with your own strength. After you killed him, you even shouted that you would kill anyone who offended China no matter how far you were. I gave up after that, Niu Qingshan said. At that time, I thought that you wouldn't become my second little junior brother, so I kept you alive until now. Reality has proven that I was right about you. Although you're overbearing and arrogant, you still have your bottom line and principles. He shook his head, however. You shouldn't have killed people from Shang Santian. Not only have you offended my little junior brother, but you've also offended Shang Santian. P.S. I still owe a chapter for the third chapter. It's getting late. I'll make it up another day. Chapter 413. Looking at Yellow Ox that was filled with hostility, Yi Chen said calmly, I know you can understand me. Now move aside. I'm the only one who can save the Dragon King. Yellow Ox stopped digging with its hooves and looked at Yi Chen calmly. It seemed to be thinking about something. Eventually, it nodded lightly at Yi Chen and retreated aside while swinging its whip. One could tell that it could understand what Yi Chen said, especially when Yi Chen said that he was the only one who could save the Dragon King. It seemed to have touched it. Li Ying, who was standing aside, was secretly shocked. Although Lao Huang was just a beast, he had been raised by the Dragon King since he was young. He had a very arrogant and eccentric temper. Other than the Dragon King, he would not pay attention to anyone, even the people of the Dragon Soul were no exception. However, what Yi Chen said made it flinch. Yi Chen walked to the ice coffin without saying a word. He stretched his arm out and patted the coffin cover. After the coffin cover was opened, he controlled his divine consciousness to check the Dragon King's body thoroughly. Li Ying held her breath and dared not make a sound. She was afraid that she would disturb him, but she was extremely nervous. She was afraid that Yi Chen would say that he could not save the Dragon King. A while later, she could not help but ask after noticing that Yi Chen was silent, How is it, Mr. Yi? Can you save him? It's a little troublesome. Yi Chen frowned slightly. He's severely injured. I think he must have been in a shocking battle with someone. The reason why he's still alive is that he's holding on to his last breath. Li Ying's heart sank at that moment. But I can. What Yi Chen said next made her overjoyed. Just when she was going to speak, she heard Yi Chen say, Prepare a quiet room for me. Sure, I'll arrange it for you right away. She nodded and walked out immediately. Soon, a quiet room was prepared for Yi Chen. Yi Chen walked in after telling no one to disturb him. He set up a formation and began refining medicinal pills. The Dragon King's main injury was his heart meridian. It was no wonder that old Zhang from the Zhang family of Huanan could do nothing about it. Even if he cured the Dragon King would become a cripple. However, to Yi Chen, it was nothing more than a resurrection pill and a body-strengthening pill. It was that simple. Li Ying had been guarding outside the room, pacing back and forth. She would occasionally glance into the room with an anxious look on her face. At that moment, Captain Dong and old Zhang walked over quietly. Looking at the tightly shut door, they asked worriedly, How is it? Mr. Yi has been in there for half an hour, and he still hasn't come out. Li Ying's face was filled with worry. If not for her rationality, she would have rushed in long ago. Could it be? Captain Dong was hesitant to speak. In reality, he could not even ask if Yi Chen was the one who did it. At that moment, the door that was tightly shut opened with a creak. Yi Chen walked out of the room with a medicinal smell. Li Ying hurriedly said, Mr. Yi, how is it? Swoosh. Everyone's gazes fell on him in unison. 2 scorching medicinal pills appeared in Yi Chen's hand. The medicinal fragrance filled the air as he smiled lightly. Fortunately, I didn't fail you. Li Ying screamed in joy. The rest looked at the 2 medicinal pills in shock. Never had they thought that Yi Chen would really succeed in refining the pills. They were convinced now. Yi Chen said nothing and walked directly to the ice coffin. He fed the resurrection pill to the Dragon King first. After the medicinal pill was completely digested, he fed the body-strengthening pill to the Dragon King. Meanwhile, the Dragon King's injuries were recovering at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. Soon, his body floated out of the ice coffin and hovered into the air. At the same time, a terrifying aura exploded from his body. It was that aura that made Li Ying and the rest kneel on the ground uncontrollably. They felt a mountain-like pressure coming at them, suffocating them. They were secretly shocked. He's going to break through. You guys can leave now. Yi Chen waved his arm to disperse the aura. He was not surprised at all. Breaking through? Li Ying and the rest were elated to hear that. They got up and walked out after clasping their fists at Yi Chen. Bang! As soon as they left, the Dragon King who was in the air let out a long roar. The entire ground shook. If one were to look closer, one would notice that the space in the room was slightly distorted. An extremely powerful energy spread to all directions with him as the center. The long roar went on for a long time, as if a real dragon was roaring and tearing heaven and earth apart. It's boss's voice. Li Ying and the rest who were guarding outside staggered from the voice. Shock filled their faces as they looked at each other. Meanwhile, the sound wave did not slow down at all. It charged toward the entire Dragon Soul military base. Eventually, it almost covered the entire 10 kilometers around Taihang Mountain. Under such power, Yi Chen stood still like a needle that could stabilize the sea. However, surprise flashed through his eyes. Was this the legendary martial venerable stage? He could sense that the aura that was being released from the Dragon King was powerful. It was completely different from a martial Dao master. He had even comprehended some rule power. A martial venerable was indeed powerful. Yi Chen nodded lightly and thought to himself. He could not help but wonder if there was really a martial artist who could shatter the void and become a saint in the 5,000 years of Chinese history. At that moment, the Dragon King who was in the air retracted his aura and landed slowly. He clasped his fists at Yi Chen and said in his deep voice, "Thank you." Not only did Yi Chen save his life, but he had also elevated him from a fake martial venerable to a real martial Dao venerable. "You don't have to thank me." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. "I don't like to owe people favors. You were injured because of me, so it's only right that I healed you. As for your breakthrough, it's related to you. As the saying goes, there can be no construction without destruction." "I was being unreasonable." The Dragon King laughed out loud. Just when he was going to speak, Yellow Ox next to him kicked him with its hoof. It seemed to be complaining and excited. However, it merely touched him lightly with its hoof in the end. "Haha. Old Yellow, I'm injured right now. Be careful, or else who's going to fish for you in the future?" The Dragon King smiled as he rubbed Yellow Ox's ears. His eyes were full of warmth. He still remembered that after the battle at the Heaven Lake, it was this old bull that carried him for over 500 kilometers before he was discovered by the people of the Dragon Soul. Pooh! However, the only response he got was a fart from Yellow Ox. Yellow Ox shot him a disdainful glance. His face was full of pride and complacency, as if he was amused by his own behavior. Meanwhile, Li Ying and the others rushed in, and when they saw that he was safe and sound, they could no longer hold back their tears. No one could understand the meaning of Dragon Soul. The Dragon Soul was brilliant because of the Dragon King. "Why are you crying? Am I not dead yet?" The Dragon King grumpily waved his hand and said, "I've been lying in bed for several days. My old bones are almost stiff. Take out the plow tools. I want to stretch my muscles." Chapter 4:14. Outside the Dragon Soul Base, Yi Chen and the members of the Dragon Soul Base stood next to a rice field that was specially cultivated. The field was approximately 2 acres. According to Li Ying, the Dragon Soul Base had specially cultivated it. It was mainly self-sufficient. Apart from the rice field, there were orchards, vegetable fields, and even livestock. Apart from carrying out missions, they would do farm work and train. It was the rule that the Dragon King had set. At that moment, the rice field before them was filled with water. A man and a cow were busy in the field. Within half an hour, they had plowed more than half of the rice field that was close to 2 acres. Who else could it be other than the Dragon King and Yellow Ox? Yi Chen watched that, feeling rather stunned. Subsequently, he turned his head and said to Liang next to him, "I didn't know that the Dragon King has such a hobby." The dignified Dragon Soul King was like an ordinary farmer plowing the field. No one would believe it if word of this got out. Liang smiled awkwardly and dared not say anything. In reality, not only did Yi Chen think so, but they thought so too. Putting aside the Dragon King's identity, the man in the field was really like an ordinary old farmer. Half an hour had passed, and the 2 acres of paddy field had been plowed. The Dragon King led Yellow Ox ashore and sat barefooted under a big tree. He took out a tobacco pipe and started smoking. His face was full of satisfaction and contentment. Liang got the rest to disperse. She went to the canteen to remind them to cook. She even cut some grass for Yellow Ox. At that moment, only the 2 of them and a cow were left. "Do you want a puff?" The Dragon King squatted on the ground and passed the pipe to Yi Chen. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He did not mind. After taking a deep puff, he lifted his eyes to take a good look at the field before him. He said, "It's great. Do you think I'm weird?" He mumbled to himself. Before Yi Chen could speak, he looked at Bai Tian and Qiushui. "Don't you think that plowing the field is the greatest and most fulfilling thing in this world? Humans, the meaning of life is to live, and to live a better life. Fields and land are the gifts of God to humans." He smoked his pipe. "Therefore, in my opinion, farming and farming have summed up the tens of thousands of years of human civilization in China. People live because of the land, and when they die, they return to the land and turn into soil to nourish the next generation. However, there are some people who were born on the land. After becoming a fish that leaped over the dragon gate and gained the ability to climb the heavens, they changed. They despised the land and life. They felt that they didn't need the land anymore. They felt that they could control nature and the world." "Dragon King, what are you trying to say?" Yi Chen asked. The Dragon King slowly raised his head and looked at him. The wrinkles on his face were like withered tree bark. "Don't call me Dragon King. My name is Niu Qingshan, but they all call me Niu Batian. I don't like this title because I was born in the late Qing dynasty. I was the son of a farmer. My parents were tenant farmers in the northwestern region. My future should have been to inherit the fate of being poor, ignorant, and lowly. I should have continued herding cattle for the landlord, plowing the land, planting crops, marrying a similarly poor woman to carry on the family line, and let my son continue like this. But everything changed. Perhaps he was smoking too fast, but he coughed a few times and said, "The Qing dynasty was over. A man called Sun Wen overthrew the Qing dynasty with the slogan of overthrowing feudalism and saving the country. He gave the fruit to Yuan Datu as soon as he was done. In the end, the society that he once saved became even more chaotic. The war between the warlords began. I still remember that I was only 16 that year. Our lives were even worse. My family used their connections to introduce me to an auto repair shop in the city as an apprentice. The boss was very strict and always scolded me. However, I knew that he was actually very kind. Every time I went to eat after I was done with work, there would be no rice left in the pot. The boss would call me over and scold me with a stern face. He would then give me a bowl of rice with 2 pieces of braised pork on it. Yi Chen did not say a word and listened quietly. I had only worked in the auto repair shop for a month when the boss was shot to death by a group of people. Niu Qingshan puffed a smoke ring. The reason was that the boss's daughter tried to seduce them, and they killed the others. I was feeding the little red horse that the boss bought for his daughter in the backyard. After hearing the gunshots, the horse went crazy and collapsed the ground. I fell into the boss's cellar, and that was how I survived. I hid in the cellar for 3 days and 3 nights. I ate moldy sweet potatoes when I was hungry, and I drank underground water when I was thirsty. I only snuck out after I was sure that everything was fine. They were all dead. The boss was dead, the boss's daughter was dead, and the apprentices who bullied me were dead too. I'll never forget the boss's eyes that were wide open after he died. I'll never forget the scene of the others lying in a pool of blood. I ran out of the city like a madman. I didn't want to be rich anymore. I didn't want to earn money to get married. I just wanted to go home. In the end, I fell sick as soon as I left the city. I was very sick. I thought I was going to die at that time. When I woke up, I realized that I was lying in an old Taoist priest's embrace. Meanwhile, there were 3 kids who were a few years younger than me standing before the old Taoist priest. They were looking at me with numb, lifeless eyes. There was reminiscence and tears in Niu Qingshan's eyes as he spoke to this point. The old Taoist priest was my master later on. The other 3 kids were my junior brothers. I'll never forget that when I woke up, the first thing that master asked was, "Are you hungry?" At that time, I nodded and said I wanted to eat meat. The master laughed and took out money to buy a few barbecued pork buns for us. The master's appearance reduced the fear in my heart a lot. His smile and his kind countenance made me see the shadow of the repair shop owner again. That night, master took us to a warlord's house as guests. The warlord was called Commander Ma. He was ferocious. He called my master Master Qin and set up a very sumptuous banquet. My junior brothers and I didn't dare to look at him, let alone eat. Niu Qingshan flicked the pipe on his shoe and continued after taking a puff. At the banquet, I saw the person who killed the repair shop owner. It was Commander Ma's adjutant. I also saw the repair shop owner's daughter, Sister Hong. I called out to her on the spot, but Sister Hong kept saying that she didn't know me. I panicked and told her about the repair shop. I even said that the adjutant was the murderer. Sister Hong cried and said that her name wasn't Sister Hong and that she didn't know me. Master gave me a drumstick to stop me from talking. After dinner, Master led us out of the commander's mansion. However, on the way we encountered more than 30 people pointing guns at us. They were Commander Ma's men. Turned out that they wanted to kill us to silence us. Master asked me for the second time, "Are you scared, kid?" I said I'm scared, I'm very scared. Master smiled gently. "Kid, don't be scared. You won't be scared after I kill them all." Master attacked immediately after saying that. He scooped up a handful of sand from the ground. He killed over 30 people on the spot with just the sand. Yi Chen's eyes focused slightly when he heard that. With such ability, he was at least a martial Dao master. P.S. There's a second chapter. The Dragon King's past is related to the subsequent plot. Please be patient. Chapter 4:15. That was the first time I saw Master fight. Niu Qingshan smiled. Including the few of us, we were all shocked by Master's power. We thought he was a god. On the night we returned, youngest junior brother, who was only 8 years old, was the first to kneel before Master and ask him to be his disciple. Master asked him why. I still remember youngest junior brother's first sentence was "I want to kill. I want to kill all these B***stars. I want them to tremble in fear." Youngest junior brother's gaze is still fresh in my memory. I only found out later that youngest junior brother's parents died in the chaos. Youngest junior brother matured earlier than us. Compared to him, the few of us were much dumber. We were shocked by youngest junior brother's words and admired his courage. In the end, Master didn't accept him. He said that his murderous aura was too strong and he would go astray sooner or later. Master accepted us instead because I was the oldest, so I was the eldest senior brother. Youngest junior brother was very determined. He kept kneeling at the door and said that if Master didn't accept him, he would kneel until he died of old age. Master told us to ignore him. After a night, we all heard that Commander Ma's residence was destroyed, including Commander Ma himself. Everyone thought that it was retribution for Commander Ma's evil deeds. Only youngest junior brother and I knew that Commander Ma was actually killed by Master because I didn't see Master when I woke up that night. Yi Chen said, "Is your master still alive?" He agreed with what this person did. However, if it were him, he would not take revenge that night. Instead, he would kill his way to the door. This person was a martial Dao master more than 100 years ago. If he was still alive, his ability would definitely be terrifying. He's not. Niu Qingshan shook his head lightly. Yi Chen secretly nodded. He thought to himself that was how ancient martial artists were. No matter how powerful they were still human. They could not escape the pain of reincarnation. Niu Qingshan continued, youngest junior brother really knelt at Master's door for 7 days and 7 nights. In the end, Master was moved by his sincerity. That night, the 4 of us knelt before Master to serve him tea. In terms of seniority, Master only said one thing to us at that time. If you can protect the world, all the poor will be happy. Master told us to be benevolent and chivalrous, and not to bully the weak with martial arts. After that, I returned to my hometown and learned that my parents had passed away. After paying my respects to them, Master took us into the mountains to escape the chaos of war. At that time, junior brother asked why Master didn't kill all these bad people since he was so capable. Master smiled and said, "If you have epilepsy and your limbs twitch, would it be useful to chop them off?" Yi Chen vaguely sensed the hidden meaning in his words. The 4 of us stayed on the mountain with Master for a total of 15 years, and then followed Master to explore the outside world for another 10 years. Niu Qingshan said, "In the past 10 years we've encountered bandits and killed bandits. Although youngest junior brother is the youngest, he's more talented than all of us. In just a few years, he broke through to the peak of illuminating pulse. Later on, he broke through to martial Dao Grandmaster before us. On the night of Master's 98th birthday, we cooked a bowl of longevity noodles for Master and bought a bottle of wine. However, Master told us that his time was almost up. After eating this bowl of noodles, he was going to fulfill a long-cherished wish. At that time I noticed that there was something wrong with Master's tone, so I asked subconsciously, "Master, are you going to die?" Master smiled and said that everyone has died since ancient times. He would have no regrets if he could use his dying body to do something. At that time we all cried and knelt on the ground, not letting Master go. In the end, Master drank the longevity noodles that night and left resolutely. Before he left, he laughed 3 times. At this point, Niu Qingshan's hand that was holding the tobacco pipe trembled slightly. From then on, there was no news of Master. We didn't know if he was dead or alive. We waited for him for a year, 5 years, even 10 years. In the end, we confirmed that he was dead and built a cenotaph for him. "Your master went to Shang Santian?" Yi Chen asked. Niu Qingshan took a good look at him, as if he did not expect Yi Chen to guess so accurately. He nodded, "That's right. During the chaotic period, many people came from Shang Santian. These people ignored life and death and thought that they were superior. My master said that Shang Santian is the source of evil, so he wanted to eliminate evil. In the end, your master died." Yi Chen sighed softly. "We didn't know about the existence of Shang Santian back then." Niu Qingshan said in a deep voice, "Since we couldn't wait for Master, youngest junior brother suggested that we split up. Moreover, second junior brother and third junior brother wanted to enter the world, and I couldn't stop them. The 4 of us could only go our separate ways in the end. 10 years later, there were 4 famous talents in the world. They were Niu Batian, Lei Feihu, Dai Tinglu, and Guan Shangyue. Among them, Guan Shangyue was the most famous. He defeated everyone on Mount Hua and was honored as a martial arts legend. The other 3 must be your junior brothers, am I right? Yi Chen smiled lightly as he gradually understood his intention. That's right. Niu Qingshan nodded lightly and said, Lei Feihu is my second junior brother, Dai Tinglu is my third junior brother, and Guan Shangyue is my little junior brother. The 4 of us drifted apart due to different ideals, which led to us becoming enemies. In the end, I, Niu Batian, returned to the Dragon Group, Lei Feihu settled down in Hong Kong, and Dai Tinglu guarded Shanghai. Meanwhile, your little junior brother, Guan Shangyue, is in the Heaven Return Palace. He's the Heavenly Palace's palace master. Yi Chen revealed the truth before Niu Qingshan was done speaking. However, he was secretly surprised. He had just killed Lei Feihu's son. Now, he found out that Lei Feihu was the Dragon King's junior brother. Did that mean that he had offended all of them at the same time? You guessed it. Niu Qingshan was rather shocked. It's actually not difficult to guess it. Yi Chen chuckled softly. With your ability, there's only a handful of people in the world who can compare to you. I'm sure your 3 junior brothers are among them. You mentioned earlier that you guys don't get along with each other. The person who injured you should be the martial arts legend, Guan Shangyue. Then, he must be the Heavenly Palace's palace master. Amazing! Niu Qingshan shook his head lightly. That's right. My little junior brother, Guan Shangyue, is the Heavenly Palace's palace master. In China, his position is the same as mine. However, his ability is more powerful than mine, and his talent is higher than ours. Before this, he was the first to break through to Martial Dao Master. Later on, he was the first to break through to Martial Dao Venerable. Therefore, my dragon soul has been suppressed by the Heavenly Palace all these years. I chose to give in because of that. I never thought that I'd become enemies with my little junior brother again because of you, Mad Southern Yi. He forced a smile. During the battle at Heaven Lake, I was only a fake martial venerable. After fighting junior brother, although I injured him severely, I almost died. Theoretically, one was a fake martial venerable while the other was a real martial venerable. There was a huge difference between their abilities, so neither of them would be injured if they fought. However, although Niu Batian was old, he was not afraid of death. It was difficult to cool one's blood after drinking ice for 10 years. On the other hand, Guan Shangyue was used to seeking stability all these years. He was unwilling to get injured, so he seemed to be worried when they fought. That was why Niu Qingshan caught his flaws. He could not help but look at Yi Chen as he spoke to this point. Actually, I've been paying attention to you since a long time ago. For example, when you killed Yuan Bupo, Northern Devil Jiang, and the rest, I thought you were my second little junior brother. You're a bloodthirsty person, so I wanted to get rid of you. Then, why didn't you do anything? Yi Chen smiled wryly. Because you stopped the U.S. Navy's Commodore Barton from entering our country's territorial waters with your own strength. After you killed him, you even shouted that you would kill anyone who offended China no matter how far you were. I gave up after that, Niu Qingshan said. At that time, I thought that you wouldn't become my second little junior brother, so I kept you alive until now. Reality has proven that I was right about you. Although you're overbearing and arrogant, you still have your bottom line and principles. He shook his head, however. You shouldn't have killed people from Shang Santian. Not only have you offended my little junior brother, but you've also offended Shang Santian, especially my little junior brother, Guan Shangyue. P.S. For the 3rd chapter, I still owe you a chapter from before. It's getting late. I'll make it up another day. Chapter 4:16. Seeing how afraid Niu Qingshan was of Shang Santian and Guan Shangyue, Yi Chen could not help but ask. Is Guan Shangyue really that powerful? He's more than powerful. It's not an exaggeration to describe him as terrifying. Niu Qingshan shook his head slightly. The wrinkles on his old face were intertwined, and there was a hint of seriousness in his expression. The Chinese martial Dao was at its peak 50 years ago. At that time, there was no lack of martial venerables in the world. However, my little junior brother was still able to dominate the world. Most importantly, I suspect that he has entered Kunlun before. Kunlun? Yi Chen frowned. The entrance to Shang Santian is in Kunlun. Niu Qingshan coughed violently a few times and said, however, no one knows where this entrance is. Back then, youngest junior brother was very close to the people of Shang Santian. Later on, he disappeared for 3 months, so I suspect that he entered Shang Santian and obtained some sort of opportunity. I suppose that's why the Heavenly Palace stopped me from killing the people from Shang Santian? Yi Chen came to a realization and fell into deep thought. Guan Shanyue was related to Shang Santian or had some kind of deal with them. That was why he sent the people from the Heavenly Palace to stop him. That's right. Niu Qingshan nodded lightly. Although I severely injured little junior brother when I fought him, that's because we're from the same sect. Moreover, we've known each other for half our lives, so we know each other very well. Don't worry about it. Yi Chen chuckled softly with a nonchalant expression. I won't attack people if they don't attack me. If he really wants to attack me, I'd like to see exactly how powerful the martial arts legend from 50 years ago is. You're very confident. Niu Qingshan looked at him with a burning gaze. He could roughly guess Yi Chen's ability, since he had killed many half-step martial venerables. However, it was hard to tell what would happen if he were to fight a real martial venerable. Yi Chen interrupted him and asked, let's not talk about that. Do you know where the 10,000 Swords Pavilion is? According to Lin Tai, Wu Shuang was saved by an old beggar after the sword was broken. The old beggar even told Yi Chen to look for Wu Shuang at the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. However, he had never heard of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. 10,000 Swords Pavilion? Niu Qingshan was slightly stunned. He said after a moment of silence, I've never heard of it. But I'm sure there's no such place in the entire China or even Southeast Asia. He was the Dragon Soul King who had lived for more than 100 years. It could be said that he had a thorough understanding of the world, but he still didn't know of the existence of this place. Yi Chen frowned slightly. Seeing that he did not speak, Niu Qingshan seemed to have thought of something and added, if there really is such a place, it must be at Shang Santian. Yi Chen suddenly said, not bad. Niu Qingshan looked at him in admiration. In the entire China and even the entire world, only the existing unknown lands are unknown to me. For example, Shang Santian and the ancient Egyptian temples. These are the unknown lands. Although the dragon soul was strong, it was unable to penetrate these places. Yi Chen secretly sighed. It seemed like Wu Shuang had really been brought to Shang Santian. In that case, he had to make a trip to Shang Santian. Whether Wu Shuang was dead or alive, he had to bring him back. As if sensing his thoughts, Niu Qingshan said, it's very, very difficult for you to enter Shang Santian. This unknown place has existed for over 1,000 years, and no one has been able to find any traces of it. Even the first emperor of Qin back then couldn't find it despite using the power of the entire country. Why? Yi Chen asked. Back then, after the first emperor of Qin unified the country, he pursued the art of immortality. Subsequently, he sent many people to search for immortals. Some of them went overseas to look for immortal mountains, while the rest went to Kunlun. Niu Qingshan put away the tobacco pipe and said while shaking his head, Kunlun is the ancestor of all mountains and the ancestor of dragon veins. There are 8 veins of dragon veins. 5 veins flow into China while 3 veins flow into foreign countries. It's said that Kunlun Mountain is the Queen Mother of the West's resting place. Therefore, the first emperor of Qin wanted to look for the Queen Mother of the West, but everyone who went to Kunlun disappeared mysteriously. Did the people from Shang Santian find out? Yi Chen asked. I'm not sure about that. Niu Qingshan shook his head and said, The first emperor of Qin was on the throne for 36 years. He started to believe in the art of immortality in 225 BC and died in 210 BC. Within 15 years, he sent over 10,000 people to Kunlun, but all of them disappeared mysteriously. Some said that they encountered demons and were eaten, while some said that they were killed by the natives of Kunlun. He paused as he spoke to this point and continued, however, according to the information that I have, those people died at the border of Kunlun. They couldn't find the Queen Mother of the West's resting place until they died because there are many strange things happening in Kunlun Mountain. Strange things? Yi Chen frowned. That's right. Niu Qingshan nodded. Someone once saw with his own eyes that the monkeys of Mount Kunlun could learn to stand, eat vegetarian food, and chant the Diamond Sutra. Someone also said that on a certain night in Mount Kunlun, darkness would invade the night. Under the tide of darkness, a living person would be left with only a skeleton in an instant. Also, white fog would appear in Mount Kunlun, and when people walked out of the white fog, they would find themselves in a boundary 2,000 miles away. A gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes when he heard that. If what Niu Qingshan said was true, then Kunlun Mountain was really different from the outside world. However, he was not surprised. After all, compared to the cultivation world, Kunlun was just a tiny corner. That made him even more determined to explore Kunlun. Just when Niu Qingshan was going to say something, Liang walked over from far away. She said while smiling, "Boss, Mr. Yi, it's time to eat. That's all I have to say. It's best that you let me know if there's anything you want to do in the future. Don't act recklessly. This world isn't as simple as you think." Niu Qingshan took a good look at Yi Chen before rolling up his pants and leaving. Yi Chen followed him and had a meal at the Dragon Soul base. He only left in the afternoon. At the same time, somewhere in the sea, a long-haired young man sat with his legs crossed 1,000 meters under the sea proudly. If one were to look closely, one would notice that there was no seawater around him. All of the seawater within 5 meters around him seemed to have moved away automatically, creating a vacuum zone. Meanwhile, the young man was in the vacuum zone. He did not feel anything under the immense pressure of the seawater at all. His eyes were closed while a white glow flickered on his body. White energy was coming out of the top of his head. As soon as the white energy came into contact with the seawater around, the seawater froze. A killer whale opened its mouth to swallow him. However, its massive body turned into an ice sculpture in the next second. At that moment, the long-haired young man opened his eyes and took out something that looked like a phone. After watching the video for a few seconds, a smirk appeared on his cold face. "My dear senior brother, you're so tough. You're still alive after being injured by me. Instead, that brat healed you and even became a Marshal Venerable. But do you think you can stop me just like that? Aren't you trapping yourself when you're trying to stop me? Do you really think that I, Guan Shangyue, can't do anything to that brat?" P.S. Chapter 1. There are 2 more to go. Chapter 4:17. At the lay residence in Hong Kong. An ice coffin stood in the lay residence's living room. The person in the coffin wore shrouds neatly, but he could not close his eyes no matter how hard he tried. Meanwhile, countless people stood around the ice coffin. The atmosphere was dead silent. Lei Feihu, who was dressed in a black robe, stood before the ice coffin. His body could not stop shaking as he looked at the person in the coffin. "Don't worry. I'll definitely avenge you. I, Lei Feihu, swear that I'll kill Mad Southern Yi in this life." He extended his hand into the ice coffin as soon as he was done speaking. He wiped the eyes of the person in the coffin, and the pair of eyes that refused to close closed all of a sudden. A hunk at the side was shocked to see that. Before this, they had tried countless methods, but they could not make Lei can close his eyes. He would open them again as soon as he closed them. Young Master died with a grievance. He was secretly shocked. Subsequently, he said to Lei Feihu before him, "Master, let us do it. We'll definitely tear ye into pieces." As soon as he was done speaking, 13 hunks leaped out from behind him. 13 burly men leaped out from behind him in unison, and every single one of them emanated a horrifying aura. The pupils of an old man in a Taoist robe constricted slightly because he noticed that all 13 of them were martial Tao masters, and they were all veteran martial Tao masters from many years ago. Any one of them was capable of leaping into the top 3 on the heaven leaderboard. The 13 of them were known as the 13 gangsters. They were adopted by Lei Feihu since they were young, and they were all Lei Feihu's godson. They were ranked according to Lei 1 to Lei 13. Not only did they have terrifying abilities, but they were also proficient in formations. No! Lei Feihu shook his head and said, "You guys are no match for him. This time, Brother Shun and I will do it ourselves. We'll make sure that nothing goes wrong. I'll dig Mad Southern Ye's heart out and sacrifice it to Kan-er." That's right. Shin Tianan, who was wearing a Taoist robe and had white hair, said in his deep voice, "Mad Southern Yi is known as the #1 on the heaven leaderboard and China's #1. He's not as simple as you guys think. Moreover, I heard that he killed a half-step martial venerable with his own hands. His ability shouldn't be any lower than ours. However, he still has to die." A ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes as he spoke to this point. There was sorrow on his face. "This person killed my son, Xingye, and then he killed Lei Kan. He even destroyed my cultivation. I, Shin Tianan, will tear him into pieces even if I have to perform a forbidden art forcefully." Feeling the chill in his words, everyone shuddered. The leader of Hong Kong's southern sect, Shin Tianan, was a legend in the spell world. However, he looked decades older now. What they had no idea was that Shin Tianan was about to break through to the legendary origin energy, but his Tao heart was broken by Shin Xingye's beauty. Later on, he consumed his lifespan to derive Yi Chen's figure and suffered a backlash. He lifted his head and looked at Lei Feihu. "It's time for you, the tiger of China from 50 years ago, to come out. If we work together, we can even fight a martial venerable, let alone Mad Southern Yi." "That's exactly what I was thinking." Lei Feihu's face was cold. 50 years. He had not fought for 50 years. Now that he and Shin Tianan were working together, even his little junior brother would have to retreat. "Who are you?" At that moment, a shout came from outside. A black silhouette appeared in front of Lei Feihu and the rest from 1,000 meters away in the next second. Countless people were shocked, especially the 13 gangsters. One must know that they were all martial Tao masters, but they did not see the person's movements at all. Just when they were going to capture the person, they heard Lei Feihu shout, "Back off, all of you! Back off!" Although the people were confused, they backed off anyway. After everyone left, the young man in black said to Lei Feihu with a forced smile while holding his arms behind his back, "Second senior brother, it's been years." "Humph, why are you here?" Lei Feihu scoffed as if he did not want to see him. "Second senior brother?" Seriousness flashed through Shin Tianan's eyes when he looked at the young man in black when he heard that. This must be the Heavenly Palace's palace master, Guan Shangyue. "I can't believe that you're still so hot-tempered after so many years." Guan Shangyue smiled lightly facing Lei Feihu's coldness. He looked at Lei Kan who was in the ice coffin, and clicked his tongue. "I should have come to see you when you were born, but I was busy with work. I can't believe that we're separated by life and death now. What a pity! Just tell me why you're here." Lei Feihu's expression was extremely gloomy. He knew his junior brother very well. His talent was extraordinarily high, and his strength was the strongest among them. However, he was too fond of currying favor, and he was even selfish. Especially after their master died, he became even more selfish. In the end, they parted ways and had not seen each other for decades. "Then, I'll get straight to the point." Guan Shangyue did not mind. "Instead," he said while smiling, I know that the both of you are going to fight Mad Southern Yi. Please forgive me for being blunt, but the both of you won't be his match even if you join forces. What? Are you here to protect Mad Southern Yi? Shen Tianan said with his deep voice. His hands that were behind his back seemed to be performing a hand seal. A majestic mystical qi energy rose from his body. As expected of Shen Tianan, your cultivation potential is the number one in China in the past 100 years. Guan Shanhue took a good look at him, and his eyes were filled with admiration. Please put away your 3 officials' killer finger. I might respect you if you can break through successfully, but I can't do that now. I'll ask you one last time. Are you here to protect Mad Southern Yi? Shen Tiannan's expression was grim. Even if the man before him was a martial arts legend from 50 years ago, he would still fight him if he stood in his way. No. Guan Shanhue shook his head and said, Third senior brother, Master Shen, Mad Southern Yi has offended our heavenly palace. I sent people to take him away earlier, but first senior brother stopped me. First senior brother? Lei Feihu frowned. Why did first senior brother stop you? If Guan Shanhue was the first person that Lei Feihu feared, then first senior brother Niu Qingshan would be the second. Among the 4 disciples, the eldest disciple, Niu Qingshan, had the worst aptitude and the worst comprehension ability. However, he was the one with the greatest willpower, as well as the most low-key and mysterious one. No one knew how strong he was because he always pretended to be weak. Don't you know, first senior brother? He's stubborn and blindly loyal. Guan Shanhue smirked in disdain. He's Master's shadow. He's always wanted to follow Master's Emperor Dao and bring peace to the people. However, he never thought that even Master would die on the Emperor Dao. How can he do that? Lei Feihu looked upset upon hearing Guan Shanhue's evaluation of Master. Then, why are you here today? First senior brother wants to protect Mad Southern Yi. He's the Dragon Soul King and a martial venerable like me. I'm being held back by him. Guan Shanhue said in his deep voice, That's why I'm here to help third senior brother. 2 black medicinal pills appeared in his hand all of a sudden as he spoke to this point. Shen Tianan and Lei Feihu's expressions changed as soon as the medicinal pills appeared. Chapter 4:18. This is the demonic life reduction pill. It can forcefully elevate one's ability by sacrificing one's lifespan. It's not an exaggeration to say that both of you are the number 1 powerhouses below martial venerables now. Guan Shanhue smiled calmly as he met the duo's gaze. It's not an exaggeration to say that both of you are the number 1 powerhouses below martial venerables now. As soon as you consume the demonic life reduction pill, you'll definitely have the combat strength of a martial venerable. Even I have to avoid 2 martial venerables. Dead silence filled the hall. Lei Feihu and Shen Tianan stared at the 2 demonic life reduction pills in his hand. They seemed rather shocked. Lei Feihu said while suppressing the shock within him, Did you get this from Shang Santian? Guan Shanhue smiled without saying anything. Humph. Lei Feihu scoffed and said, Eldest senior brother was right. You really have something to do with Shang Santian. That's not important. What's important is that the opportunity to take revenge is right before you. Meanwhile, my nephew, Lei Can's body is right before you. It's your choice. Guan Shanhue shook his head lightly. Lei Feihu looked hesitant. After all, he did not have much time left. If he consumed the demonic life reduction pill, he would be 1 step closer to his death. However, his son's body was right before him. It was terrifying. Shen Tianan said, Is this useful for spell masters? Of course. Guan Shanhue nodded. Determination flashed through his face. Sure, I'll take it. Shen Xingye was his only son and his only successor. Not only did Yi Chen kill his son, but Yi Chen had also destroyed his cultivation base. He would not let Yi Chen live a good life even if he had to pay the price. Wait. Lei Feihu suddenly said, why don't you go to Shanghai to look for third junior brother? The third junior brother that he mentioned was Shanghai's #1, Dai Tinglu. His ability was no weaker than his, and he had the best relationship with Guan Shangyue in the past. Third senior brother doesn't want to see me. He even said that he won't interfere with the matter between me and eldest senior brother for the rest of his life. Guan Shangyue did not hide it. Lei Feihu took the pill expressionlessly. Very good. Guan Shangyue smiled lightly and said, Guys, the Longmen Convention is starting soon. I advise you guys to kill Mad Southern Yi at the Longmen Convention. By then, expose what Yi Chun has done in front of the world's heroes. By then, the dragon's soul won't be able to say anything even if you guys kill him. This is a good plan. Shen Tianan smirked. But how did you know that Mad Southern Yi would participate in the Longmen Convention? If he doesn't go, then wouldn't we have made a wasted trip? Don't worry, he will go. Guan Shangyue smiled faintly and disappeared on the spot. After he left, Shen Tianan looked in the direction where he left and said in his deep voice, Your little junior brother is unpredictable no matter if it's his schemes or ability. Guan Shangyue returned to the deep sea once again, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. Eldest senior brother, you never expected me to use such a method, right? I want to see how the person you want to protect will deal with two martial venerables working together in the Longmen Convention. As for you, your opponent is naturally me, your junior brother. In Shanghai, a middle-aged man in white stood quietly on the surface of the lake with his arms behind his back. He had no aura at all, as if he was dead. If a powerhouse was present, they would realize that he had merged with the lake beneath his feet as if he was a part of the lake. Dad. At that moment, a lady in a white chiffon dress walked over from far away as she said unhappily, Dad, I'm going out to play. I'm going to Tianan. Don't ask Grandpa Wu to keep an eye on me, all right? The middle-aged man opened his eyes and looked at the lady rather helplessly. He said coldly with a straight face, Play? Do you only know how to play every day? The last time you went to Hong Kong to play behind my back, the sons of two powerful men were killed. If it wasn't for me, would you still be standing in front of me unscathed? That has nothing to do with me, all right? The lady stomped her feet. Stop talking. The middle-aged man cut her off. You'd better stay at home for the time being. You're not allowed to go anywhere. People from South Korea will be arriving soon. Wulong, lock her up. A hunchbacked old man appeared like a ghost. He smiled helplessly at the lady. Shiyu, follow Grandpa Wu. Grandpa Wu will teach you how to cultivate. Humph. The lady scoffed and left. The middle-aged man watched her leave. He only sighed softly after she disappeared. China is going to rise again after being quiet for close to 50 years. I wonder how many people will die this time. Will it be Mad Southern Yi? Or will it be Shen Tianan and my second senior brother? He lifted his head and looked far away. His eyes were as calm as water. Little junior brother, eldest senior brother is right. You've changed. You've gone against Master's last wish. Will you only stop when you destroy the Chinese martial Dao inheritance? Do you like being a dog that much? Almost at the same time, Yi Chun received a call from Old Chen when he walked out of the Dragon Soul base. He picked it up after some hesitation. Come to me. The Longmen Convention is starting soon. Yi Chen's eyes lit up after hanging up the phone. Was the Longmen Convention about to start? It would mean that he could finally head to the geographical vein and break through to foundation building with the help of the sinkhole. He flew to Beijing on his sword Gleam. Half an hour later, Yi Chun appeared in a courtyard house in Beijing. Old Chen glanced at him and went straight to the point. The Longmen Convention will be held in 3 days. I'm calling you here to discuss something with you. Discuss what? Yi Chun frowned. Old Chen said angrily, Don't you know that you've offended the Heavenly Palace? They have the highest authority. They found out about the sinkhole in Shenangjia with a simple investigation. Yi Chen smirked. What? Is the heavenly palace trying to stop me? No. Old Chen shook his head and said, No. Firstly, it's because they have no idea why you're going to the sinkhole. Secondly, I'm in charge of the sinkhole at the moment, so they won't fall out with me over it. However, it's better to keep a low profile. Here's what I'm thinking. I'll get someone to bring you to the sinkhole in Shenangjia 3 days later. Don't show up at the Longmen convention. No matter how they fight, don't cause trouble for me, let alone kill people. Yi Chen nodded lightly. Sure. Oh yeah, I've heard that people from Hong Kong, especially Xin Tianan, will be attending the Longmen convention too. Old Chen seemed to have recalled something as he looked at Yi Chen helplessly. Unfortunately, you killed someone's son and the Thunder King's son when you went to Hong Kong a few days ago. Therefore, you have to keep a low profile. He was really helpless when it came to Yi Chen. This brat killed people wherever he went. He would either kill people's disciples or their sons. He would even kill entire families. If not for the fact that this brat knew how to refine medicinal pills and had taken the initiative to give them the medicinal formula, they might not have tolerated him until now. I'll come again in 3 days. Yi Chen turned around and left after hearing what Old Chen said. So what if it was the Thunder King? So what if it was Xin Tianan? Yi Chen had more than just these two enemies. However, most of the people's graves were already 50 feet tall. That's the end of today's update. Thank you for your support. Good night. Chapter 419. Yi Chen returned home after leaving Old Chen's place. He was quietly preparing for the Longmen convention. His physical body was still there at the moment, but his cultivation base had been drained to avoid the space crack when he returned to Earth. To be exact, his cultivation base was still there, but his spiritual energy had been drained. It was like a huge water tank that could initially contain a ton of water. However, there was a hole at the bottom of the tank, causing all the water in the tank to drain. If he wanted to fill the tank again, he would have to fix the hole and keep adding water. Meanwhile, the spiritual energy required for cultivation was just like the water. As long as there was enough spiritual energy, it was possible for Yi Chen to recover his cultivation base instantly. However, spiritual energy was scarce on Earth. He had only recovered to peak stage spirit assembly after returning for 3 months. Foundation building was above spirit assembly. Foundation building, as the name suggested, was to build a Dao foundation to build a good foundation for future cultivation. All foundation building required the help of geographical veins. Among them, geographical veins were divided into heavenly spiritual veins and earthly spiritual veins. There were 72 types of heavenly spiritual veins and 36 types of earthly spiritual veins. The 2 kinds of earth veins were respectively used to cast the earth-grade Taoist root and the heaven-grade Taoist root. The spells they cast were also divided into the 72 heavenly dipper spells and the 36 earthly fiend spells. The 72 heavenly dipper spells were basically mediating creation, reversing yin and yang, shifting stars, reversing the sky and the sun, summoning rain and wind, shaking mountains and earth, riding fog and clouds, and turning rivers into continents. Meanwhile, the 36 earthly spiritual veins were mountain carrying, wind riding, fog spreading, sunny blessing, rain summoning, God connecting among them. Heaven was above and earth was below. Before entering the foundation building stage, the techniques that Yi Chen could perform could be counted on one hand. Most of the time, he would rely on the advantage of his physical body or the divine punch created in 33 days. Once he entered the foundation building stage, he would be able to perform even more technique. Of course, this depended entirely on the type of foundation building he chose. However, Yi Chen did not have his eyes on the heavenly spiritual veins and the earthly spiritual veins. He wanted to build a divine spiritual veins. The divine grade Dao foundation surpassed the heavenly grade Dao foundation and the earthly grade Dao foundation. Once the divine grade Dao foundation was established, Then one would be able to execute the 72 heavenly dipper techniques and 36 earthly fiend techniques, and this was the terrifying aspect of the divine grade Tao foundation. However, the spiritual energy on earth was scarce. It was difficult to find traces of the earth malevolent geographical vein, let alone the 1 in a million divine geographical vein. However, Yi Chen was not worried at all because he had an ability that could forcefully transform an ordinary geographical vein into a divine geographical vein. The sinkhole in Shenangjia was his target. Therefore, in the past 3 days, he had been preparing for the foundation building stage. He had spent 10 billion yuan to search for all kinds of precious stones and materials, such as 100-year-old blood corals in the sea and so on. Initially, he planned to guide Lin Tai and Yang Tian in their cultivation. However, ever since he started following the Patriarch of Hell, Yang Tian seemed to have been led astray. Recently, he had been visiting all sorts of nightclubs. At the same time, he had successfully entered beginner stage spirit assembly. Yi Chen was happy to be free. He accompanied Su Yuhan and his daughter while preparing. He could be considered to have stolen half a day of leisure. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The entire spell world in China was stirred because the Longmen Convention was a grand event in the spell world. It was held once every 3 years, and everyone in the spell world would attend it. The purpose of attending was none other than to exchange cultivation experiences and to prove their respective sex names. Most importantly, there would be spell masters who would be there to teach and even preach. Spell masters. The status of those 4 words in the spell world was nothing less than the status of martial Tao masters in the ancient martial world. In fact, it was even more prestigious. It was because it was much more difficult for a spell master to become an ancient martial artist. It focused on one's comprehension, wisdom, and family inheritance. Therefore, countless people from the spell world swarmed to Shenangjia in the past 3 days. They included major cultivation sects such as Mount Mao, Mount Lao, and Mount Longhu. There were also cultivation families such as Lingnan's Zhao family, Hong Kong's Shin family, and the Wu family. After breakfast, Yi Chen received a call from Old Chen. "Little Yi, I've sent people to Tiannan. I think they'll be here by now. You can follow them to Shenangjia by then. I've told them to listen to your command." "Thanks." Yi Chen hung up the phone after saying that. Su Yuhan, who was wearing an apron, walked out of nowhere. She looked rather upset. "Are you going out again? It's boring for me to stay at home alone if I don't." Yi Chen pretended to sigh. "My daughter has started school, and you're the beautiful director of a big company now. You're in the company every day while Mom and Dad go to the nursing home to play chess with them every other day. It's so boring for me to stay at home alone." Just yesterday, the Yi family had a family meeting. During the meeting, they had an intense and deep discussion about whether Yi Mengmeng should go back to kindergarten. As her father, Yi Chen was the first to speak. "I've left countless riches for Mengmeng's future. Mengmeng's mother is the director of a corporation. No matter if it's a father or a mother, she won't lose to anyone. Therefore, there's no need for her to study. She just needs to be literate and able to count." In the end, his parents and his wife objected and condemned him as soon as he expressed his opinion. The few of them had the same opinion. His parents said that it was because the Yi family had a big business that they should raise Mengmeng, the only child, since she was young. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to inherit the family business when she grew up. Meanwhile, Su Yuhan was even more straightforward. "I don't care if you fight and kill outside, but I won't allow my daughter to be like you in the future. A girl should act like a girl. Being reserved, polite, kind, and cultured are the characteristics of a good girl. Therefore, my daughter must go to school." Yi Chen was in a stalemate with them. Eventually, Su Yuhan suggested a vote. Yi Chen scoffed and admitted defeat without even thinking about it. Apart from the little girl, there were 4 of them in the family and 3 of them were standing against him. Was there any meaning in this so-called vote? Therefore, Mengming's grandpa and grandma sent her to school early that morning. She even carried Lu Ban's little school bag, and cheered so much that she almost sang the national anthem. Yi Chen could only give up. Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. She hugged him softly all of a sudden and said softly, "Come back soon." "Yes, I will." Yi Chen sniffed the fragrance in her hair with a hint of infatuation. Subsequently, a red shirt appeared in his hand. "Remember to put this on after I leave." "What's this?" Su Yuhan was stunned at first, but she could not help but blush when she saw it clearly. The shirt in Yi Chen's hand looked like sexy lingerie. It made her think of something indescribable. "This is a protective robe that I've refined. If you put it on, it can protect you from being shot or ambushed." Yi Chen did not notice her abnormality at all. Instead, he began explaining while smiling. The protective robe was the result of his efforts in the past 3 days. Although it was just a mid-grade magic tool, it was enough for Su Yuhan. After all, Iron Tower was protecting her. P.S. The first chapter is gone for today. I'll make it up to you later. Recently, the website has been censoring illegal content. There are a few chapters in this book that have been censored due to minor violations. It hasn't even been a day since we changed them, so there's a delay in updating. I hope that everyone can understand. I believe some of us have noticed this because I'm not the only one. Some books have even stopped updating their content. Chapter 420. After walking out of his house, Yi Chen received a call. "Hello, Captain Yi. I'm Yu Lei. I'm the person responsible for bringing you to Shenangjia this time. May I know if you need us to pick you up personally?" The person spoke politely. Yi Chen said while smiling, "Where are you guys?" "The entrance on the first floor of Lin City's airport terminal." "Sure, I'll be right there." After hanging up, Yi Chen did not rush to the airport immediately. Instead, he went to the Little Swan kindergarten. Standing at the entrance, he saw his daughter playing football with her friends on the lawn from far away. Perhaps it had been a long time since she went to school. The little girl seemed rather happy. She was dribbling a football on the football field with a pair of white shoes. Nobody could stop her at all. The little girl suddenly stopped when she was less than 20 meters away from the goal. She moved the tip of her toes lightly and subsequently kicked hard. Could it go in? Yi Chen could not help but look forward to it. Bang! As a loud thud came, not only did the football not go out, but it was pierced by the little girl's kick instead. Dead silence filled the place. Everyone blankly stared at the little girl as if they were dumbfounded. At that moment, a lady in sportswear walked over while whistling. She must be the little girl's physical education teacher. The little girl was a little nervous like a child who had done something wrong. "Ms. Wang, I didn't do it on purpose." Ms. Wang bent down and took a good look at the deflated football in her hand. Subsequently, she squatted down and touched the little girl's hand. She asked, "Yi Mengming, tell me, how much force did you use?" "Just a little bit." The little girl pouted, feeling wronged. Never had she thought that the ball would be broken just by a little bit. Just a little bit. The smile on Ms. Wang's face froze. Subsequently she said, "It doesn't matter if it's broken. I won't blame you. Wait a minute." She returned to the equipment room after saying that. Soon, she walked out with a basket in her hand. There were 4 to 5 footballs in it. She placed all of them on the same level and said while smiling, "Kick it a few more times for me to see. Be gentle and kick it boldly. I won't blame you even if it's broken." Under her encouraging gaze, the little fellow nodded his head heavily and then shot his first kick. This time, the ball was not broken and quickly shot into the goal. The little fatty who was guarding the goal did not even have time to react. Mr. Wang nodded. Then, he personally walked to the front of the goal and said to the little fellow from afar, "One more time." Bang! The second ball. Again. Teacher Wang caught the ball in one go. If one looked closely, one would notice that her hands were trembling slightly when she caught the ball. Bang! The third ball. Mr. Wang held the ball and took 5 steps back. Again. The 4th ball. Mr. Wang's glasses were broken. Mr. Wang, are you all right? A large group of little fellows hurriedly ran over. Adorable cried, Mr. Wang, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. No. It's not your fault. Mr. Wang took off her glasses. Instead of being angry, she was elated. She was extremely excited, as if she had discovered a new continent. Yi Mengmeng, you're a genius. Do you know that? The future of the Chinese women's football team depends on you. How outstanding must their parents be to give birth to such a cute little girl like you? I am so excited. Our Lin City will definitely have a genius who will win the World Cup in the future. This silly girl. Yi Chen saw everything, including their conversation. However, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. His silly daughter had eaten so many medicinal pills. It was normal that she could not control her strength well. Su Yuhan was the same as all mothers in the world. She hoped to raise her daughter to be a genius who was morally, intellectually, physically, and aesthetically. Therefore, on the basis of asking the little girl to study, she wanted to develop more hobbies for her. For example, the football in front of her, or drawing. Yi Chen did not mind that. As long as his daughter was happy, it was fine. After confirming that the little girl was getting along well in school, he shook his head and left quietly. At the same time, on the 1st floor of Lin City's airport terminal, a young man and woman in blue mountaineering attire were standing at the exit and looking around. They seemed to be looking for someone. The man among them had thick eyebrows and big eyes. His face was filled with righteousness and his figure was tall and straight, giving off a feeling of being bathed in the spring breeze. The woman beside him was much more youthful and beautiful. Her figure was slender, and she looked around with a hint of heroic spirit. The lady took out a mirror and said absent-mindedly while applying lipstick on her face, "Brother, why do you think the captain sent us out this time? Could it be that they're going for the Longmen convention?" "How would I know?" The young man shrugged, looking like he was in between tears and laughter. "I'm not a parasite in the captain's stomach. Anyway, we just have to follow the captain's orders and follow Sir Yi. Don't ask about anything else. Boring." The lady closed the mirror and said while pouting, "We've only been in the army for less than half a year. We're still rookies. I haven't even experienced all the tricks in the army, and the captain sent us out. Yu Yu's birthday is tomorrow. Great, I can't celebrate her birthday even if I'm out. What bad luck." She even rubbed her hair hard as she spoke to this point. Clearly, she was upset. "Don't spout nonsense. Since it's the captain's arrangement, he must have thought about it." The young man rolled his eyes at her angrily. People were envious that they could go sightseeing without training, but she was the only one who looked reluctant. The lady rolled her beautiful eyes. "Brother, who exactly is this Sir Yi? He managed to get us, the Fire Phoenix, to show up. Moreover, he's the captain. Who should I ask?" The young man was speechless. The lady smiled awkwardly. "How old do you think he is? What does he look like?" Seeing the young man's impatient expression, she said coquettishly immediately, "Brother, just guess. I'm just bored." "I've heard Sir Ye's voice earlier. He should be 40. The young man fell into deep thought and was a little unsure. After all, Yi Chen sounded too old. Moreover, the phone's sound quality was terrible, so it was difficult to tell. As for his looks, he's not as handsome as me anyway. Phew! I'm sick of looking at him." The lady acted like she was going to throw up immediately and rolled her eyes at him. "I hope that our Sir Yi is more handsome. If that's the case, I might be able to cheer myself up along the way. Otherwise, it'll be boring." The young man was speechless. Just when he was going to speak, a gentle laugh came from behind them. "I'm sorry to keep you guys waiting." Chapter 421. The lady turned her head to look immediately. Disappointment appeared on her face at that moment. "Is this our Sir Yi?" She had told her brother that Sir Yi must be handsome before this, but she was slapped in the face. Although her brother said nothing, she seemed to have heard him laughing in his heart. Her enthusiasm vanished instantly. She merely nodded coldly at Yi Chen as a greeting. The young man, on the other hand, smiled lightly. You must be Sir Yi, right? I'm Yu Lei who called you earlier. Oh yeah, this is my sister, Yu Lian. Compared to Yu Lian, he was not too emotional. After all, he was a man, so he did not mind the appearance of the same sex. The only thing that surprised him was that Yi Chen was just too young. He seemed to be younger than him. Nice to meet you guys. Yi Chen smiled calmly as a response. He looked average and was a little arrogant. It seemed like he was not good with words. That was Yu Lian's first impression of Yi Chen. Stop talking, brother. Let's go. It's almost time. Yu Lian stood aside and said softly in dissatisfaction. She could already foresee how boring the trip would be. Sir Yi, here's your ticket. Yu Lei smiled and passed the ticket to Yi Chen. As they walked into the terminal, Yi Chen realized that the terminal was packed. There were heads and long queues everywhere as far as his eyes could see. Most of them were wearing strange clothes. He suddenly stopped walking and spread his divine consciousness out. He sensed countless spiritual powers in the lobby immediately. There were even magic waves in those people's bodies. Could they be people who are going to the Longmen Convention? Yi Chen secretly speculated. The scene reminded him of what he had seen when he went to Hong Kong. Although he knew that the Longmen Convention was unusually popular, he never thought it would be this popular. After all, 2 to 3 out of 10 people were spellmasters. Seeing that Yi Chen had stopped all of a sudden, Yu Lei, who was walking in front, turned his head and said, Sir Yi? What's wrong? Yu Lian could not help but look at Yi Chen upon hearing that. She thought it was his first time taking a plane, so he seemed a little dazed. She secretly shook her head as she thought about that and said nothing in the end. Nothing. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and followed them. Soon after he left, an old man in a Chinese tunic suit at the ticket counter suddenly glanced at the direction where Yi Chen disappeared in deep thought. Surprise flashed across his face. A woman in a black suit walked out with 2 plane tickets in her hand. She asked subconsciously, Master, what's wrong? I don't know what's going on, but I felt a prickling sensation just now. It was as though someone was spying on me. The old man in the Chinese tunic suit muttered to himself. For a split second, all the hairs on his body stood on end. It was as if he was being stared at by a venomous snake. The pressure was immense, but that pressure disappeared in a flash. It can't be. The lady in black was in disbelief. Master, you're the famous Taoist Banshan from the Banshan lineage. In terms of feng shui, there aren't many people in China who can surpass you, let alone Xianyang City, right? She was also someone from the spell world, so she naturally knew that the sixth sense of spellmasters was very strong. To put it simply, the sixth sense was mental energy. If it could produce the feeling of being spied on, it meant that the person spying on them had very strong mental energy. Perhaps there's something wrong with the air conditioning here. The old man in the Chinese tunic suit shook his head lightly. However, he was satisfied with what his female disciple said earlier. I've been preparing for this Longmen Convention for a long time. I must avenge myself and take back my Banshan lineage's treasure, the mountain ruler, from the Gold Raiders. That's right. The people from the Gold Raiders are too arrogant. They've been suppressing us all these years. I've been waiting for this day to come, the lady in black said in anger. The old man in the Chinese tunic suit smiled confidently. Apart from Shin Tianan from Hong Kong and Zhang Kadi from Dragon Tiger Mountain, nobody is my match in this Longmen Convention. I'm not afraid of Shin Tianan at all. After they sat down in the plane, Yu Lian took a good look at Yi Chen again. She could not help but ask, why did you go to the sinkhole in Shenangjia? It's filled with fire and it's scorching hot. There's nothing to see there. Don't tell me that an ordinary person like you went to watch the Longmen Convention? They were born in the Fire Phoenix, so naturally they could read people. However, she realized that she could not see through Yi Chen since they met. However, she was sure that he was not a cultivator. The reason being, Yi Chen's fingers were as slender as a lady's. He did not look like an antique who trained his body. Instead, he looked like a rich young master who had never experienced hardship. "I'm just going to watch." Yi Chen said nothing more. Yulian scoffed and turned her head away. She was speechless at that moment. 2 hours later, in Fang County, Hubei Province, an SUV eventually stopped at the edge of a village in Fang County. Yulei parked the car by the road and turned his head to say to Yi Chen after turning off the engine, "Sir Yi, we're here." Yi Chen nodded lightly and got off the car with the both of them. He saw cars everywhere. Moreover, most of them were luxury cars. The worst one was a Bentley. What confused him was that most of the people there were ordinary people. Yulian walked aside to make a call. "Sister Yulian, we're here." At that moment, a cheer came from far away. Subsequently, a teenage girl in a blue and white shirt with a ponytail ran over. There was a muscular young man who was 15 or 16 years old following behind her. Gigi. Joy appeared on Yulian's pretty face. The teenage girl's cheeks were blushing as she approached. She said while panting, "Sister Yulian, you guys are finally here. I thought you guys weren't coming." "There was a traffic jam on the way, so we're late," Yulian said while smiling. She was speechless when she said that. There were cars all along the way and they were stuck in a traffic jam for more than half an hour. She could not help but glance at Yi Chen. She was filled with resentment. She felt that if it were not for Yi Chen, she would not have to suffer like this. Don't worry. My dad said that he's just worried about you guys. It's good that you guys are here." Gigi looked at Yi Chen as if he was a stranger. Subsequently, she said in a friendly manner, "Sister Yulian, Brother Yulei, come with me now. My dad hunted some wild animals on the mountain today. You guys are in luck today." "Gigi, let me introduce you guys." Yulei stopped her and introduced while looking at Yi Chen. "This is Yi Chen. He's our leader. You can just call him Brother Yi Chen. Mr. Yi, this girl is Gigi. She's just 19 years old this year. She's from the same family as you, so her surname is Yi. The shy guy behind her is Yi Shan. He's 15 years old this year." "Hi, Brother Yi Chen." Gigi smiled sweetly. Her brother, Yi Shan, on the other hand, was shy at the back. Yi Chen smiled lightly. "Hi." Gigi tugged Yi Shan. Yi Shan then looked at Yi Chen in admiration. "Brother Yi Chen, Sister Yulian and Brother Yulei are already so powerful. I can't believe you're their leader. You must be amazing." Yi Chen was between tears and laughter as soon as he heard that. Yi Chen was between tears and laughter. "I'm not powerful," Yulian snorted to herself. "At least you know your place." Just when they were about to follow Gigi into the village, an unusually arrogant and domineering voice came from behind all of a sudden. "Get out of the way. Master Xiegu is out. He won't be responsible if he dies. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I owe you 3 chapters earlier." Chapter 422. "Get out of the way, Master Xiegu is here. We won't take responsibility if you kill yourself." As soon as he said that, there was a rumbling sound. Yi Chen extended his divine consciousness and sensed that there were 3 BMWs driving over in a straight line. There were a few luxury cars following behind them. They were arrogant and condescending. "Watch out." Almost at that moment, Yulei grabbed Yi Chen's hand and retreated aside with Yulian. Meanwhile, the 3 BMWs did not slow down at all. They crashed into Gigi and her sister, who were walking at the front directly. "Gigi, get out of the way!" Yulian screamed by instinct. Gigi turned her head. She was dumbstruck when she saw the 3 BMWs charging at her. She forgot to dodge at that moment. "Lin!" Just when Yi Chen was going to save her, his expression froze all of a sudden. As a cold voice came, an extremely muscular hunk appeared before Gigi all of a sudden. The hunk was fearless, facing the 3 BMWs that were charging at him. He stomped both of his feet as he roared. He extended his arms that looked like a dragon and charged at the 3 BMWs. Bang! The ground shook and dust was stirred into the air. When the dust faded, the hunk alone managed to stop the 3 BMWs. Meanwhile, the hunk merely took a step back, but his feet were planted deep into the ground. The people in the BMWs looked horrified. Was he still human? Yishan snapped back to his senses within a short moment. He walked over and took a good look at Gigi. He was worried. Sister, are you all right? Gigi. Yulien walked over quickly too. I am fine. Gigi's face was pale. She shook her head, still in shock. She then said to the hunk before her, "Thank you. If not for the hunk, she would have been dead for sure." At the same time, more than 10 hunks walked out of the 3 BMWs and surrounded the hunk. The leader cursed, "Who are you? How dare you block Master Shiegu's way?" However, the hunk said nothing. "Don't you guys have any shame?" Yu Lien, on the other hand, glared at them angrily. "You guys are so overbearing. If he didn't save you earlier, someone would have died. Do you know that? Now you're trying to turn the tables on me? Where did this silly girl come from? How dare you meddle in our business?" The other party was enraged and subconsciously slapped Yu Lien. Bang! At this moment, a pebble shot over from afar and directly hit the man's arm. The man screamed and rolled away on the spot as if he had seen a ghost. "Who is it? Forgive and forget whenever possible," an indifferent voice sounded. Soon after, 3 people wearing black clothes and bamboo hats jumped down from a tree. The leader was a tall man. Since she was wearing a bamboo hat, her face could not be seen clearly. However, her voice was a little thick. "Shiegu, you're indulging your subordinates' lives. Beware of being wanted by the Fekta. Return." After saying this, he turned around and performed a spell on the giant man behind him. The giant man's body suddenly shrunk and turned into a yellow talisman that was kept in his sleeve. Seeing this scene, everyone was so shocked that they couldn't speak. Obviously, they didn't expect that a living person would actually become a talisman. A gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes when he saw that. Is that a strong man? Is that the puppet method? Legend had it that Zhang Jiao and his brothers received guidance from the old immortal Nanhua during the Yellow Turban Uprising during the 3 Kingdoms period. The old immortal Nanhua taught them the art of peace, which included the inheritance of the puppet method. Therefore, Zhang Jiao created many yellow-scarved strongmen after that. The yellow-scarved strongmen had immense strength. They were invulnerable and did not feel pain. They were known as a divine tool that was fearless of death. Meanwhile, the giant man who saved Gigi looked like a yellow-scarved strongman. I was wondering who it was. So, you're from Xialing? A rather cold voice came. A skinny old man with wrinkles and pockmarks all over his face walked out of the Ferrari behind the 3 BMWs slowly. The old man looked ruthless, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Along with his appearance, they felt like they were in an icehouse. "You guys from Xialing have never shown yourselves, let alone meddling in worldly affairs. Why are you here for the Longmen Convention?" Master Shiegu glared at Yi Chen and the rest coldly. His eyes eventually landed on the 3 men in the bamboo hats as he smirked. "It's none of your business. I'll give you a piece of advice before I leave. Don't get caught in your own trap." The 3 men in the bamboo hats said expressionlessly and disappeared far away. Master Shiegu watched them disappear coldly. A hunk next to him walked up and said softly with a ferocious gleam in his eyes, "Master, the 3 of them have interrupted your fun. Do you need me to kill them?" "You?" Master Shiegu glanced at him in disdain. "Do you know that even I have to be wary of them? Do you think your underlings can hurt them?" The hunk said nothing in anger. "Interesting. Even Xialing is here. Moving mountain, raiding gold. I guess Fakey can't hold it in anymore, can he?" The nefarious bone old man grinned in a playful manner. He had his eyes on Yi Chen and the rest as he said to the hunk, "As for these few people, kill them when you have the chance." He returned to the Ferrari as soon as he was done speaking. The 3 BMWs from earlier continued to clear the way for him. They left like stars surrounding the moon. Yi Chen watched the cars drive away. Yu Lian was furious to see that he was not moving. "What are you looking at? Let's go." Everyone was terrified when Gigi was in danger earlier. They could not bear to see her die. Yi Chen was the only one who looked normal. He looked indifferent to death. To her, that was cold-blooded and selfish. Yi Chen did not hear her because he had been thinking about what kind of existence the secret bureau that the men in the bamboo hats mentioned was. He could not help but glance at Yu Lei and Yu Lian. He subsequently shook his head and decided to ask the Dragon King, Niu Qinshan, about it when he got back. Not long after, the group arrived at Gigi's house. It was a 2-story brick house with ordinary decorations. There were pigs, sheep, and other livestock in the house. From this, it could be seen that Gigi's family wasn't very well off. However, the family looked happy, as if they didn't have any desires. Gigi's father was very hospitable. He slaughtered the chickens and ducks himself, and even roasted a wild rabbit for everyone. One could tell that Yu Lian had a special relationship with them. However, Yi Chen did not ask. The few of them chatted during the meal. Yi Chen listened as he ate. Only then did he find out that Gigi had an elder brother. However, he was in the military and belonged to the same batch as Yu Lian and the rest. Gigi's family met Yu Lian when they visited the military. Seeing that they were almost done with their conversation, Yi Chen glanced at Gigi's father, Yi Feng. He said, "Uncle Yi, I wonder how many sinkholes are there in Shenangjia?" Chapter 423. A sinkhole. It referred to an extraordinary space and shape with a massive volume, steep and enclosed walls, and a deep well or barrel silhouette. It was a natural wonder. Meanwhile, the largest sinkhole discovered in the world had a diameter and depth of over 400 meters. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as an underground city. That was the reason why Yi Chen took the initiative to ask about the sinkhole in Shenangjia during the meal. After all, Gigi's family was not far from Shenangjia. Meanwhile, Gigi's father, Yi Feng, had been to Shenangjia a couple of times, so he must know more than Yi Chen. Yi Feng's chopsticks froze slightly when he heard Yi Chen's question. He glanced at him in slight surprise. "I wonder why you're asking that, little brother?" "Uncle, we're here to investigate the sinkhole. That's why Sir Yi asked that." Yu Lei, who was standing aside, helped Yi Chen out of the awkward situation. Yi Feng nodded and said, "There are around 10 sinkholes that have been discovered in Shenangjia at the moment. There are big and small sinkholes. Little brother, don't blame me for being suspicious. It's because another sinkhole was discovered a month ago, but it's a little strange." "Strange?" Yi Chen was surprised. "That's right." Gigi could not help but interrupt. "Brother Yi, the sinkhole that was discovered in Shenangjia a month ago was filled with fire. It was like a volcanic eruption. Moreover, there were antiques in the magma that was erupting. Everyone said that there's an ancient tomb down there." Cough, cough, cough. Yi Feng coughed a few times. Gigi stuck her tongue out and stopped talking. "Ancient tomb?" Yi Chen took a good look at Yi Feng and said while smiling, "Uncle, I won't ask if there's anything that you can't tell me." "That's right, Uncle Yi. Why are you being so secretive?" Yu Lian said in a muffled voice while eating a chicken claw. Yi Feng looked around and eventually sighed softly. The newly discovered sinkhole always erupts magma. There will be many antiques and bottles on the ground after each eruption. The locals say that there's an ancient tomb down there. He could not help but look at Yi Chen as he spoke to this point. He smiled apologetically. "Little brother, please don't mind me. The reason why I didn't want to tell you guys is that I'm afraid that you guys can't help but look for antiques in the sinkhole. Many people have died there." "How can there be antiques in magma?" Yu Lian was confused. Yulei also nodded. He had only heard of sky burials, cremation burials, burials, and water burials. The first three were all buried in the ground, but he had never heard of people being buried in magma. After all, the temperature of magma was so high that everything that entered it would turn to ash. How could there be a tomb? Where are the antiques? Yi Chen asked. He was more interested in these antiques. The fact that they were not damaged in the magma at all made them worth his attention. It was taken away. Yi Feng shook his head slightly. When we first discovered the antiques, many people picked them up. But before they could warm up, the government sent people to take them away. They even asked us to keep our mouths shut. This was also the reason why he was unwilling to mention it just now. Taken away? Uncle Yi, did those people say who they were? Which department? Yulian asked subconsciously. Eat your food. Yulei replied to her with a drumstick. Both of them belonged to the special department, so naturally, they knew what they should know and what they should not know. As for the sinkhole, they did not know much about it. Their mission was to take orders to bring Yi Chen to the sinkhole. Forget it. Let's not talk about it. Let's eat. Yulian snapped back to her senses. She smiled awkwardly and picked up her bowl to eat. She stopped talking about anything else. Yi Chen was the only one who kept thinking about the sinkhole. It seemed like the sinkhole with magma was the geographical vein that old Chen had found for him a month ago. He could not help but feel excited as he thought to this point. Others might be afraid of magma, but he was not. The meal lasted for a full half an hour. After eating and drinking, Yi Feng knew the purpose of Yi Chen and the rest. After hesitating for a while, he finally let Gigi be the guide to bring Yi Chen and the rest to Shenangjia. Before he left, he reminded them many times not to go to the sinkhole with magma. They noticed something. The closer they were to Shenangjia, the more cars and people there were. Gigi said with a pale face when she found out that Yi Chen and the rest were going to the sinkhole with magma. Brother Yi, Sister Yulian, are you guys really going there? It's really dangerous. I heard that the magma erupts irregularly. Yulian was a little scared after hearing what she said. She could not help but look at Yi Chen. Hey, why do you have to go there? Why don't we go somewhere else? There are so many sinkholes anyway. You guys don't have to go if you're scared. I won't blame you guys. Yi Chen smiled calmly and was not moved at all. He closed his eyes after saying that. Who's scared? Yulian was pissed. She glared at him angrily and scoffed. Why would I be scared if you're not? Moreover, isn't it just a sinkhole with magma? I've seen something more dangerous than that. Alright, since you're going, Sir Yi, there's nothing more to say. Yulei shook his head and turned his head to say to Gigi, Don't worry, Gigi. We won't get too close. You just need to bring me there. Only then did Gigi nod. Yulian secretly peeped at Yi Chen. She was pissed to see him resting with his eyes closed and looking relaxed. At the same time, in a Honda SUV, a young man glanced at the old man in the back seat through the rearview mirror while he was driving. Master, I heard that people from Banshan and Xialing are here too, especially the people from Xialing. That's strange. I thought they never show themselves? What else could it be? It must be the heavenly tomb. In the back seat was an old man wearing a gray robe. The old man only had one eye and the other was blind. His eye was completely white, and he held a dragon-headed walking stick in his hand. He looked very calm and composed. The heavenly tomb? The young man's hand that was holding the steering wheel shook as he exclaimed, Master, could there really be a tomb in that sinkhole? But how is that possible? You must know that it's filled with magma. What's impossible about that? The blind old man smiled calmly. You silly kid. You must know that ever since our tomb raiding sect embarked on the path of cultivation, we've never been in contact with ordinary tombs. This time, the four sects, Tomb Raiding, Xialing, Banshan, and Fakyu have all made a move. We'll use all of our abilities. I believe we'll definitely be able to open the tomb in the sinkhole. With the four sects working together, Even Shen Tianan from Hong Kong will have to think twice. At the Shen residence in Hong Kong, the curtain was white and it was extremely solemn. Shen Tianan stood before the morning hall with his arms behind his back. He mumbled while looking at the portrait on the wall, "Xingye, I'll avenge you soon. Just wait a little longer. I'll let you live in this world in another way after I kill Mad Southern Yi." He was getting older. He looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. Lei Feihu, who was standing aside, had a complicated expression on his face. Eventually, he could not help but ask, "Tianan, you buried Xingye in the corpse formation ground. Even if you succeed, is he still Xingye? Is he still your son? You've paid a huge price for that. You only have less than 10 years of life left. Is it worth it?" "It's not worth it or not." Shen Tianan picked up 3 incense sticks and inserted them into the incense burner. He said while shaking his head, "I, Shen Tianan, believe that I'm the best in feng shui and spells in Hong Kong. If I can't predict Xingye's calamity in advance and borrow my son's life from the heavens, why should I cultivate any spells then? Since the heavenly Tao is unfair, why should I follow the heavenly Tao?" Lei Feihu could not help but sigh softly upon hearing that. Shen Tianan stretched his arm out and touched the portrait. He asked without even turning his head, "Brother Lei, have you sent your people out?" "Yes, they're in Lin City now. They'll move as soon as you give the order." Lei Feihu nodded lightly. "Haha, there's no rush." Resentment flashed through Shen Tianan's eyes. "As long as I kill Mad Southern Yi before the 7th day of Xingye's death, you can order your people to do it. By then, I'll use Mad Southern Ye's blood to wake my son up. I'll arrange a marriage for my son. P.S. Another 3 chapters were blocked yesterday. The normal number of chapters is 419, so there should be 422 chapters with the update yesterday. However, 3 chapters were blocked, so the number of chapters is now 419 again. Some of my brothers said that I didn't update yesterday, but I did. It's just that the numbers of the chapters were reversed. Recently, the government has been cracking down on pornography and illegal publications. It's a serious matter. The website is checking the illegal content too. Many books have been banned. The blocked chapters are considered to be relatively light. I'm currently correcting some of the illegal content from before, such as overly flirtatious ones. So, please understand. It'll be fine once the storm blows over. Chapter 424. Over an hour later, the car arrived somewhere near Shenangjia successfully. As far as the eye could see, the whole mountain was filled with people, and the foot of the mountain was densely packed with cars. They were all luxury cars such as Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and the lowest configuration was a Bentley. Countless people in all sorts of outfits were walking up the mountain. "Wow, there are so many people." Yulian walked out of the car, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. Gigi did not seem to be surprised. She said obediently, "Sister Yulian, I think they're here to participate in the Longmen Convention. We have such a grand event every 3 years. I heard there'll be immortals here too." "Immortals?" Yulian failed to react at the moment. "That's right, immortals." Gigi nodded and looked forward to it. "I heard from my dad that these immortals have supernatural powers. Not only can they ride on the clouds, but they can also summon the wind and rain. It's not an exaggeration to say that they're omnipotent." Yulian snickered out loud. "Ride on the clouds? Omnipotent? Gigi, I can't believe that you're superstitious. Those who don't know better might think that you're telling me a fairy tale." "I'm telling the truth." Gigi panicked at the moment. "Alright," Yulian said, "Gigi, what you said only exists in movies or novels. Listen to me. There are no immortals in this world. You must believe in science. Do you understand? If there really are immortals, wouldn't the world be in chaos?" "That's right." Yulei nodded as well. The Fire Phoenix belonged to the Special Forces. As members of the Fire Phoenix, the most powerful thing that he and Yulian had ever seen was in the army. There was someone who could slap a nail into a wooden board with one hand. That was the result of years of training. Gigi looked like she was in deep thought. She could not help but look at Yi Chen, who was silent. Brother Yi, do you think there are really immortals in this world? Yi Chen smiled calmly. There should be. Should? Yu Lian rolled her eyes at him and said angrily, no means no. What do you mean by should? Gigi is still a child. Don't instill such thoughts into her head. Those immortal masters that she talks about are just a bunch of scammers. Yi Chen was speechless. Little girl, I don't like what you said. Right at this moment, a mocking voice resounded from behind them. They turned around and saw a woman dressed in black holding an old man in a Chinese tunic suit walking over slowly. The two of them walked very slowly. The old man was about 60 years old and wore a jade ring on his thumb. Yu Lian frowned. Old man, I didn't say anything, did I? When the old man in the Chinese tunic suit approached, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. You didn't say anything to me directly, but you also scolded me when you said that we are all charlatans who cheat us of our food and drink. I'm talking about an immortal master. Do you think you're an immortal master? Yu Lian snorted coldly. I'm Yuan Chitai of Xianyang, and this is my disciple, Deng Chan. I don't deserve to be called an immortal master, but I do know a little about feng shui. The old man in the Chinese tunic suit shook his head slightly and said, That's why I couldn't hold back when I heard the little girl's contempt for the spell world. Those who study feng shui, aren't they scammers? Yu Lian chuckled. She had never believed in feng shui and fortune-telling. Even though she had seen the strongman from Xialing before, she thought that they were just tricks to cheat people of their food and drink. Yu Lei glared at her and smiled apologetically at Yuan Chitai. I'm sorry, old man. That's just my sister's temper. I hope you don't mind. Although that was the case, Yu Lian was still smirking. The lady next to Yuan Chitai, Deng Chan, could not help but say angrily, a bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. She waved her hand at Yu Lian after saying that. Yu Lian and Yu Lei acted like they were facing a great enemy as they thought she was going to attack. However, Yu Lian noticed that there was a red butterfly-shaped hair clip in Deng Chan's hand. She could not help but touch her head subconsciously and realized that there was nothing on her head. She yelled angrily, How did you get my hair clip? Ha! Deng Chan smiled disdainfully and blew at the butterfly-shaped hair clip in her hand. The hair clip turned into a red butterfly in the blink of an eye and flew into the air. It flapped its wings and flew around the group. Yu Lian was stunned when she saw that. Yu Lei and Gigi had disbelief on their faces. I'm returning it to you. Deng Chan waved at the butterfly in the air, and the butterfly returned to her hand to turn into a hair clip. She tossed it, and the hair clip returned to Yu Lian's head accurately. She had a proud expression on her face. Now, you should know what sorcery is, right? Yu Lian was embarrassed. Yu Lei, on the other hand, suppressed his shock and clasped his fists at Deng Chan and Yuan Chitai. Oh, it's you, master. We were wrong. Please don't mind us. Don't worry about it. Yuan Chitai smiled calmly, looking like an expert. Deng Chan glanced at Yi Chen by instinct. She could not help but frown when she noticed that there was no surprise on his face at all. The feeling of flaunting vanished instantly. Let's go, Yi Chen said when Gigi was going to ask Deng Chan a few questions. Gigi then looked away reluctantly. She led Yi Chen and the rest to the other side of the mountain path. It was a small path that led deep into Shenangjia. Yuan Chitai glanced at the direction where the few of them had disappeared and subsequently shook his head. Xiaochan, don't ever flaunt in front of people in the future. Do you understand? Master, those guys were rude to you earlier. I couldn't take it anymore. Deng Chan was rather upset. Let them be. Remember, don't flaunt in the future. Otherwise, it'll bring you a lot of karma and trouble. Yuan Chitai sighed softly and lifted his eyes to take a good look at the people before him. He said, It seems like the people from the other 3 branches aren't here yet. Let's check out the sinkhole first. Half an hour later, the bunch of them arrived at a Colonel Gigi wiped her sweat and pointed below. Sister Yulian, Brother Yi, that's the sinkhole that's releasing lava. The few of them looked where she was pointing and could not help but be stunned. They saw a gigantic sinkhole on the ground 20 meters below them. The sinkhole was approximately 10 meters in diameter and was so deep that they could not see the bottom. Within a kilometer around it, there was nothing but red, scorched soil. If one were to look closer, one would notice that the air above the sinkhole was shaking and twisting. It was clearly caused by the high temperature. The temperature was at least 50 degrees Celsius. It's so hot. Yulian could not stop wiping the sweat on her face with a tissue. However, she realized that she could not wipe all of it no matter how hard she tried. Her face was like a ripe apple. Yulei nodded. He was drenched in sweat. Sister Yulian, let's go. It's too hot here. Gigi took out her water bottle and gulped down mouthfuls. Steam was rising from her head. Yulian could not help but look at Yi Chen. She said angrily, Sir Yi, since you're done looking, let's go. Otherwise, you'll die from the heat. The temperature here is just too high. Gigi and Yulei looked at him instantly. No, you guys go first. I'm going down to check it out. However, Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He walked down the path that led to the bottom before they could react. Seeing this scene, the three of them were instantly shocked. Chapter 425. Sir Yi, where are you going? Yulei's expression changed instantly. He realized that it was too late when he wanted to stop him, so he called out immediately. Brother Yi, come back now. It's too dangerous. Gigi turned pale from fear. Come back now, you idiot. Do you want to die? Yulian was stomping her feet in panic. We're dying from the heat even though we're standing so far away. Forget that you're not leaving, but how dare you go down? What's the difference between that and seeking death? Are you crazy or stupid? She wanted to go down and bring Yi Chen back by instinct, but Yulei stopped her. Don't go. On a giant rock less than 30 meters away from Yulei and the rest, Yuan Chitai and his disciple looked at Yi Chen, who was below. They were stunned. What's that brat doing? Yuan Chitai, in particular, had disbelief written all over his face. One must know that he dared not go down despite his high cultivation base. The high temperature would cause him to use his mysterious qi to protect his body continuously. It would also accelerate his metabolism. Deng Chan, who was next to him, screamed, Master, is that guy out of his mind? Does he have to do that for a few pieces of scrap metal? Why doesn't he see that even we don't dare to go down? How dare he? She thought Yi Chen was going for the antiques around the sinkhole. At that moment the ground shook intensely. Deng Chan staggered and almost rolled down the mountain. When she finally steadied herself, her face was pale. What happened? Yuan Chitai squinted and could not help but look at the sinkhole. He seemed to have recalled something as his expression changed. Oh no, the lava is erupting. He was a spell master who mastered spiritual power. His sixth sense was very powerful. Although he was far away, he could sense that there was a ball of scorching heat erupting from below. He flashed as he thought to this point, turning into an afterimage and dashing toward Yulian and the rest. The three of them were shocked by the tremor earlier. They thought it was an earthquake. Yulian was secretly cursing Yi Chen. The lava is erupting. Quick, grab my hand. I'll bring you guys up. Yuan Chitai grabbed Yulian and Gigi with both hands. He waved and summoned a strong wind out of nowhere. He carried Yulei and leaped up. Yulei said immediately after he stood still, Senior, please save Sir Yi. He's still down there. Nothing must happen to him. It's too late. Yuan Chitai sighed lightly, and his expression was extremely heavy. Boom! With a thunderous sound, the earthquake became more and more intense. It was as if the whole mountain was shaking. Then, a pillar of fire suddenly shot out from the giant sinkhole. The diameter of the fire pillar was about 10 meters. It was like a fire dragon that shot up to a height of 20 meters. Then, it turned into a torrent and fell to the ground. With the sinkhole as the center, it swept out in all directions. Wherever the surging magma passed, not a single blade of grass was left. Everyone's faces turned pale as they truly felt the power of heaven and earth, especially Yu Lian and the other two. They did not take it seriously when Yi Feng mentioned it earlier, but now that they witnessed it with their own eyes, they could not help but tremble in fear. Even Yuan Chitai was no exception. As the leader of the Banshan lineage, he believed that he had a deep understanding of magical techniques and had a certain level of attainment. However, in the face of the surging magma, he appeared very weak and powerless. "Look, what's he doing?" Deng Chan exclaimed. The few of them looked at where she was pointing. They saw a skinny silhouette at the foot of the mountain advancing instead of retreating as the magma was erupting. He took the initiative to walk quickly toward the magma that was gushing out. Who else could it be if not Yi Chen? Yu Lian's face turned pale again. "Does he want to die?" "Brother Yi!" Gigi screamed while crying. Yuan Chitai was fuming. Why is this young man so foolish? Although antiques are great, he needs to be alive to take them. At that moment, Yi Chen was less than 10 meters away from the magma that was gushing out. He was walking faster as excitement filled his face. Such a dense fire element aura. The closer I get, the denser the aura is. Judging from this, I can tell how dense the fire element in the sinkhole is. There must be fire essence in there. Boom! The magma rushed over and drowned Yi Chen completely. "Sir Yi! Brother Yi!" Yu Lian, Yu Lei, and Gigi screamed at the same time when they saw Yi Chen being devoured by the magma. Despair filled their faces. "Oh no!" Yu Lei sat on the ground and mumbled. "Captain asked us to protect Sir Yi, but he's dead. How are we going to explain this to him when we get back? I shouldn't have brought Brother Yi here." Gigi's eyes were wet as regret filled her face. Yuan Chitai shook his head lightly and looked at the magma beneath with a serious expression. He said, "Let's go. We shouldn't stay here for long. The Longmen convention should be starting soon." "What an idiot. Great. It doesn't matter if you're dead, but you're dragging us down with you." Yu Lian glanced at where Yi Chen disappeared and left with Yuan Chitai after shaking her head. Nobody doubted that Yi Chen was dead at all because even an armored tank would melt under the impact of the magma. Unless he was Sun Wukong. At the same time, there was a sea of fire in the sinkhole. What everyone didn't know was that there was a person standing proudly in the sea of fire in the surging magma. He was surrounded by endless flames and the magma beneath his feet, but it didn't cause him any harm at all. This place doesn't look like a volcano at all. Where did all the magma and flames come from? Could there really be fire essence here? Yi Chen hovered in the air and lifted his eyes to take a good look at the sea of fire before him. He realized that the interior was really huge. It was at least 1,000 square meters. There were 4 natural caves around, and the flames and magma must have come from there. He could not help but release his divine consciousness to check one of the cave. However, he realized that the coverage of his divine consciousness in the sea of fire was very small. The temperature isn't high enough. The pressure is too little for me. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He had to accept a certain level of pressure to achieve the Tao Foundation. He could only unleash all of his potential under intense pressure. "I hope that you won't disappoint me." He took a step out and walked slowly to the cave on the far left. He realized that the deeper he went, the higher the temperature was. If it was 200 degrees Celsius outside, the temperature would increase by at least 10 degrees with each step he took. Eventually, it became 300 degrees Celsius. Under such high temperature, Yi Chen's forehead could not help but sweat. However, he did not stop walking and proceeded to go deeper. A red silhouette suddenly appeared behind him. Subsequently, it charged at his back like a specter. Yi Chen threw a punch behind him. The thing shrieked in pain and retreated a few steps back. It looked at Yi Chen in fear from far away. It was an animal the size of a pigeon. However, its entire body was red. To be exact, it was covered in flames like a firebird. Baifeng? Yi Chen squinted. Chapter 426. The Baifeng Divine Bird. There was a record in the classic of mountains and seas, West Mountain scripture. There's a bird that looks like a crane. It has one leg, red markings, green skin, and a white beak. Its name is Baifeng. It's called Baifeng. Baifeng is a sign of fire. There will be fire wherever it appears. Meanwhile, the thing before him was covered in flames and looked like a crow. At first glance, Yi Chen thought it was a Baifeng. He subsequently shook his head and said, "It's not a Baifeng. It looks like a fire crow, and it doesn't seem to have a physical body." He grabbed the fire crow before him. It was shocked, and the flames on its body grew more intense. It charged at Yi Chen again after shrieking. It even spat flames out of its mouth. However, the flames did not affect Yi Chen's body at all. Yi Chen grabbed it accurately. In the next second, it turned into a ball of fire and merged into the sea of fire around him. It really isn't a physical body. It seems like a virtual body formed by the flames here. But why would it form a fire crow? Could it be? With a thought, he turned around and continued walking into the tunnel. He had only taken a few steps when several more fire crows appeared in front of him and behind him. These fire crows were even larger than before. These fire crows charged at him without fear of death. Yi Chen proceeded to walk after lifting his arm and slapping them away. The temperature within a short 100 meters had risen to over 500 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, there were more and more fire crows blocking his way. From a few to dozens, there were so many of them. If he were an ordinary person, he might have died. After walking for over 100 meters, the view before him became low-lying. It was a crater that looked like a pond. It was filled with bubbling lava. Meanwhile, there were obsidian walls around him that had cooled down. There was no way out. Tui. At that moment, the lava in the crater was boiling. Countless bubbles came out of it. Each bubble would turn into a fire crow when it rose into the air. There were at least a few hundred of them. Kill. Yi Chen took out the almighty killer sword. Sword chi spread within 200 meters. All the fire crows that entered the range were torn into countless flames by the sword chi. Soon, none of them were left alive. The flying sword in his hand seemed to have sensed something. It suddenly slashed behind him, and a shriek came from behind him. Yi Chen turned his head to look. A giant fire raven about a meter tall was clinging to the rock wall, looking at him with a fearful expression. Upon closer inspection, one could see that its beak was broken, and blood was dripping onto the rock wall like fire. "I knew it!" Yi Chen revealed an expression that said, as expected. He had previously wondered why there would be a fire crow energy body in this place, and secretly guessed that such a thing might really exist, and that it was hovering in this giant pit, but he didn't expect it to be true. The one in front of him was the parent of all the fire crow energy bodies. Looking at its appearance, it had cultivated for at least 100 to 200 years, and its strength was around the middle stage of the spirit-gathering state. "You're quite smart, you evil creature. You know how to use incorporeal bodies to exhaust my magic power along the way. You even know how to use hundreds of incorporeal bodies to restrain me and then launch a sneak attack on me from behind." Yi Chen smiled lightly. "But you've underestimated me. If it was an ordinary cultivator at the peak of Spirit Assembly, they would have to constantly use their magic power to create a barrier to protect themselves if they wanted to enter the sinkhole. In the long run, their magic power would be exhausted. However, Yi Chen did not do that. The other party roared, but it dared not move forward. It glared at the almighty killer sword hovering above Yi Chen's head. Clearly, the sword attack earlier had injured it to a certain extent. "If I'm not mistaken, the reason why you're stopping me in such a hurry is because you're afraid that I'll find out about something, am I right?" Yi Chen proceeded to say. The giant fire crow's fur stood on end. The flames on its body burned even more. Yi Chen was fearless. He stretched his arm and pointed at the magma pond beneath him and chuckled softly. Moreover, your secret is down there. I'm only looking for one thing this time. As long as you don't stop me, I'll consider sparing your life. He said nothing more after saying that and turned around to walk to the magma pond. At the same time, the fire crow attacked Yi Chen like it had gone mad. Clearly, Yi Chen was right. Humph, you're so stubborn. A sword gleam flashed and cut it into half. Yi Chen did not even look at it. He leaped into the rumbling magma and kept going deeper. Approximately 10 minutes later, he arrived at the bottom of the magma and realized that there was a stone door at the bottom. The stone door was approximately the height of a person and was covered with limestone. Yi Chen pushed it and realized that it was rather heavy. He picked up his flying sword and cut it open completely, revealing a cave. He covered it with his divine consciousness and walked in after sensing no danger. The scene before him changed again. It was a narrow space. There was a faint sound of water coming from far away. Yi Chen realized that it was a small river that flowed from west to east when he got closer. It seemed to be an underground current. Meanwhile, there was a pontoon bridge above the river. There was a man-made cave abode at the end of the pontoon bridge. Could there really be an ancient tomb? Yi Chen thought to himself. He could not help but step onto the pontoon bridge and walk into the cave abode. He scanned with his divine consciousness and saw 3 stone rooms. Each stone room was approximately 100 square meters and had a simple layout. Meanwhile, there was a pill cauldron in the middle of the first stone room. The pill cauldron was made of bronze and was approximately 2 meters tall. There was a dragon head on each side with a groove at the waist and a lid at the top. There were many firewood scattered around it. However, the firewood had rotted while the ground was covered in dust. Yi Chen walked to the second stone room. There were a few wooden shelves with various yellowed books on them. One of them turned into dust as soon as he touched it. In the third stone room, there was a jade bed. Moreover, it was made of cold jade and it was emitting cold air. An old man in Taoist robes sat cross-legged on the jade bed. His head was buried in front of his chest, and his hands were placed on his thighs, forming hand seals. Yi Chen looked calm as usual because he did not sense the old man's aura. Clearly, he was long dead. He was surprised when he was going to withdraw his divine consciousness. His body isn't rotting? Although the old man was long dead, his body was still intact. He might not be able to do that with the jade bed alone. Yi Chen could not help but go forward to check. He was shocked to find out that there was an unusually intense heat in the old man's body. The heat covered his entire body and merged with the chill coming out of the jade bed beneath him. As the heat and ice alternated, his body was protected. What's this? Yi Chen scanned with his divine consciousness and sensed a black stone in the old man's body. The stone was approximately the size of an egg. There was a golden flame flickering in the middle. The golden flame was merely the size of a fingernail, but it gave Yi Chen an unusually dangerous feeling. Yi Chen was surprised and delighted. It's the golden fire crystal.